Chapter 2445. Actually, there have always been many doubtful points about this matter, but at that time, Shimin Wanli smiled bitterly. I don't know how you guys got along with each other back then, but my boss has always been very good to us. How many times have we brothers gone through life and death together? How many times have we been in a situation of certain death? But my boss has never run away alone. Every time he has been the one to hold the line. Even if it was really impossible and we had to retreat, my boss would always be the one to bring up the rear. Why would such a boss frame us? Why would he do such a despicable thing that day? This is extremely illogical. It's just that we are all blinded by greed and ungrateful. Shimin Wanli stood up and sneered. The bad nature of humans is on full display here. If someone treats you well 1,000 times, you can forget it all. But as long as they don't treat you well once, you will never forget it. We are a bunch of bastards. Bastards from head to toe. Shimin Wanli pointed at them one by one. Every time he pointed at a person, he scolded, "Ungrateful bastards. Selfish bastards. Bastards who bite the hand that feeds them. Bastards." In the end, Shimin Wanli slapped himself in the face and scolded, "Shimin Wanli, you are a shameless, heartless bastard. What right do you have to be called Tribulation's brains? Shimin Wanli, why don't you just die? What face do you have to continue living in this world with your deceitful heart?" Shimin Wanli howled in pain. Outside in another tent, Chu Yang also closed his eyes in pain. He completely shut off his senses and cut off all perception of the outside world. He really couldn't bear to listen to this tragic scene. This day and night, the heavenly demons kept sending troops to harass them, but every time they were killed by the crazy brothers of tribulation. They continued to fight tirelessly and without regard for their lives. Chu Yang did not participate in the battle. Chu Yang even felt grateful to these heavenly demons at this moment, because they really provided a channel for Tribulation's brothers to vent their frustrations. This endless battle between life and death, the endless collision of flesh and blood, was the best way for them to express themselves right now. Zi Sheqing had been listening and watching quietly. Finally she let out a long sigh and said, "This bunch of people are really too tragic. I really don't understand. Why did they choose to enter the extraterritorial battlefield in such an inhumane way? Isn't that too cruel? Given the current situation, I'm afraid that even if all the extraterrestrial demons are killed by them, how can they live happily in their lives?" Zi Sheqing sighed. Chu Yang remained silent. He had a vague conjecture in his heart. However, he didn't have any concrete evidence at this stage. In fact, he didn't even have any signs of it. He didn't dare to make any assertions or even think about it. Especially at such a time, Chu Yang naturally didn't dare to rashly make this guarantee or hope. As the saying goes, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. In the future, once their hopes were dashed, the huge disappointment caused by it would probably cause them to collapse instantly. After 2 nights and 1 day of battle, it was dawn again. The smoke of the battle had yet to disperse. Generations of Tribulation brothers stood on the blood-drenched and devastated battlefield. All of them were in a daze. Their spirits were still there, but they seemed to have wandered off and were unable to control themselves. Chu Yang sighed. However, he could only pretend that he didn't know what had happened. He walked out slowly and said, "In these 2 days the extraterrestrial demons have been constantly sending out troops from the lowest to the highest level. Their combat power is also getting stronger and stronger. They should be testing our real situation. Judging from this, they should have a comprehensive plan ahead. Everyone must be on guard against this." Zuoqiu Yunfu forced a smile and said, "That's right. We all know this very well. They will definitely not allow us to return alive after entering the hinterland of purple cloud heavens." Chu Yang nodded. "That's right. All along the way we have never changed our direction of advance. This is almost equivalent to telling them where we are going and where our target is. Therefore, the place where they will give us a fatal blow should be in Purple Imperial City." Zuoqiu Yunfu said. "Not necessarily." Shimin Wanli said, "I feel that the final blow that they will give us, which means that the battle that will decide our life and death, should be outside Purple Imperial City." Shenyuan Changkong and the others also nodded silently, agreeing with Shimin Wanli's words. Zuoqiu Yunfu suddenly understood and said, "That's right." This time it was Chu Yang's turn to be puzzled. He said, "Why? Purple Emperor City is the best place and the best opportunity, isn't it? Our destination is Purple Emperor City. After we arrive there, our sharpness and morale will always be slightly weakened. The Sky Devils won't let go of such an opportunity, will they?" Zuoqiu Yunfu smiled sadly and said, "That's the original logic. However, you don't know another thing. His Majesty, the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor, is not only our hero, but also the hero that the extraterrestrial demons worship. Not only will we not do something to blaspheme the hero in our hearts, they won't do it either. Chuyang was stunned. There's such a thing? Is this true? It's very hard to imagine, isn't it? The extraterrestrial demons are indeed cruel and inhumane. However, in their primitive nature they worship martial arts. They pay more attention to heroes even if the heroes are once their enemies. In other words, ever since the incident with the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor, the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor's position in the hearts of the extraterrestrial demons may have dropped to the level where he is second only to their Heavenly Emperor. They worship the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor to the extreme. Even in the land of the extraterrestrial demons, there are many people who have specially written books and biographies for the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor. The contents of the biographies are completely free of any slander or blasphemy. In my opinion, this is really unbelievable, but it really exists. Wuxia Yunfu sighed deeply. I can even guarantee that those who know about the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor's past deeds in the Celestial Imperial Court will definitely not know as much as the land of the extraterrestrial demons. Is it very sad? However, this is the truth. In the Celestial Imperial Court, the respect that the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor receives is also not as in the land of the extraterrestrial demons. Xinyuan Changkong sneered somewhat mockingly. With deep sorrow he said, I don't know if this is a great irony. Our own hero, the indisputable hero of mankind, does not receive the respect that he deserves in his own world. Instead, he has an extremely high position in the hearts of the enemy. Reality is really scary. Chuyang was silent for a long time. A deep and heartfelt sorrow suddenly rose from his heart. He could not help but ask in his heart, what is wrong with this world? What is wrong with this world? Is reality really so scary? It is precisely because the extraterrestrial demons have great respect for the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor that the Purple Imperial City is instead the safest place in the entire Purple Cloud Heavens. This is because the extraterrestrial demons do not allow any fighting or noise to occur in the place where the heroes rest. Wuxia Yunfu sneered. Even the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor's cenotaph was personally built by the higher-ups of the extraterrestrial demons. When these words were said, not only Chuyang and the rest, but also the Tribulation Brothers of the past also felt a rush of grief and indignation. They almost could not control themselves. The heroes of their own world, in the land of their own race, in the Heavenly Imperial Court, did not have a cenotaph or memorial. Instead, in the place of the enemy, they were respected and worshipped. Zi Sheqing suddenly felt an indescribable sense of suffocation in her heart. This sense of suffocation made her have an impulse to kill someone. Everyone tried their best to calm themselves down, but they also knew that they could not delay any longer. They continued on their journey. 8,000 miles of yellow sand passed in the blink of an eye. Out of everyone's expectations, this part of the journey was unexpectedly calm and peaceful. The higher-ups of the extraterrestrial demons might have already realized that these people had already gone crazy. If they rashly sent an army over now, it might not be able to deplete much of the enemy's strength. Instead, it would provide a channel for the enemy to vent their negative emotions. Although the extraterrestrial demons did not know why these people had gone crazy, they knew that these people's mental state was extremely abnormal now. Since these people were already destined not to return halfway. Since they had already decided on the general direction and strategy to eliminate these people, then, there was no need to continue probing now. They could basically come to an end. What harm was there in letting them pass like this? Anyway, they were a team that was destined not to return. Therefore, the rest of the journey was calm and tranquil, without any disturbances. This moment of peace lasted until 3 days later. In the vast land in front of them, standing at a high point, they could already see the situation in all directions. As far as the eye could see, there were mountains, lakes, towns, and forests. Chuyang suddenly felt that there was a vast expanse in front of him. Finally, in this devastated land of purple cloud heavens, he saw some vitality and some greenery. When he saw these, he seemed to feel more comfortable. Is this where the extraterrestrial demons live? Asked Chuyang. Yes. Ji Huitian sighed. There are still some aboriginals in purple cloud heavens. But the aboriginals of purple cloud heavens have been living very miserably all these years. And they are also very secretive. Usually they live in very deep and dense forests. Ji Huitian was somewhat despondent. The aboriginals of purple cloud heavens have never contacted us. In their eyes we are not trustworthy. Chuyang sighed deeply. Right at this moment, they suddenly heard a loud cry coming from afar. The voice was very far away, but they could clearly hear the pain in that voice. Then, yellow sand rolled in from afar as if someone was rushing over here. Chapter 2446. Everyone frowned at the same time. This situation was not right. According to everyone's judgment, the heavenly demons' plan was to seal them all outside the Purple Imperial City and annihilate them. Although this place was not far from the Purple Imperial City, there was still a certain distance. If they launched an attack at this time, the encirclement line would inevitably be stretched too long. As long as they had the intention to retreat, the chances of escaping unscathed were quite high. The other party would not be so unwise, right? Just as everyone was thinking, the reason for the change in front of them had already appeared. Two figures flashed past in front of everyone like shooting stars. They did not stop at all and only shouted with a strange accent, "A large number of heavenly demon troops are coming. Quickly enter the dense forest." Then, the two people rushed into the primitive forest that seemed to stretch to the horizon with a whoosh. There was a rustling sound in the bushes, and the two people had already disappeared. Experts. Jianghu Tian and the others were stunned when they saw this. Although the two of them might not be as strong as them in terms of individual strength, their concealment skills could be said to have reached the pinnacle. It was just a blink of an eye, and they actually disappeared without a trace under their eyes. It was really an extremely rare method. Behind them, countless flying demon troops followed one after another. However, after seeing the two people sneak into the dense forest and a group of golden-robed people preparing to fight here, they did not take the opportunity to attack. Instead, they stopped chasing. A moment later, as if they had received some kind of order, the entire flying demon army immediately retreated without hesitation. Yan Fei could not help but be furious when he saw this. He took the lead and rushed to chase after the retreating flying demons. A few others followed him, but the quality of the other party's troops was very high. Their strategic intention was obvious and they did not fight at all. The few of them tried their best to kill, but they still only killed a few flying demons. The other party had already disappeared without a trace. These fellows sure run fast. Yan Fei and the others returned resentfully. They really did not expect that these guys who had such a huge lineup would simply turn around and flee after seeing them. What the hell was this? Just as everyone was puzzled by this change, a doubtful voice suddenly sounded, "May I ask if you are gold-clothed heavenly guards?" Everyone turned around in astonishment, only to see the grass beside the forest wriggling. The originally flat grass that seemed to be normal actually had a human head popping out, looking up at them from the ground. Everyone here was a top-notch expert. If an ordinary person saw this scene, they would be scared to death. However, because they were all top-notch experts, they did not treat these people as ghosts. Instead, they were even more surprised. None of them realized that the turf not far away was formed by these two people. The concealment and concealment skills of these two people were simply marvelous. It was simply breathtaking. Jianghu Tian nodded his head. "That's right, I wonder who the two of you are?" After the two people confirmed the identity of Jianghu Tian and the others, they became cold and indifferent. They said indifferently, "Why are you gold-clothed heavenly guards here?" Jianghu Tian asked, "Can't we come here?" That person laughed and said sharply, "Since when did you people from the Heaven Imperial Court remember us from the purple cloud heavens?" Zi Shiqing was shocked. She stepped out from the crowd and said, "You are from the purple cloud heavens?" The two people stood up slowly from the shadows and the grass. They puffed out their chests, their eyes shining. They said loudly, "Yes, we are from the purple cloud heavens. We are from the purple cloud heavens who are still fighting with the heavenly demons." The two people seemed to have too much anger towards Jianghu Tian and the others. This sentence also seemed to be shouted out. Chu Yang's heart moved. He said, "I'm afraid the two of you have some misunderstandings about us. We are all from the Heaven Imperial Court. In the face of invaders, we should be united against a common enemy and defend against external aggression." Hearing this, the two people were stunned for a moment. Then they laughed sadly. "We are all from the Heaven Imperial Court? United against a common enemy? Ah. Ridiculous, extremely ridiculous." Jianghu Tian and the others sighed heavily upon hearing this. They did not say anything. Hearing the two people, the older one said, "I wonder who else wants to join us against a common enemy? Ah. We are all from the Heaven Imperial Court? Does the Heaven Imperial Court still recognize the existence of the purple cloud heavens? Does the Heaven Imperial Court still recognize the purple cloud heavens as the land of the Heaven Imperial Court? Does the Heaven Imperial Court still think that the people who are still alive in the purple cloud heavens are from the Heaven Imperial Court? Ah. Bullshit." He tilted his head fiercely and spat a mouthful of saliva. he said disdainfully. The purple cloud heavens has fallen into the hands of the enemy for more than 1,000,000 years. In these millions of years, since when did anyone from the Heaven Imperial Court come to the purple cloud heavens? Since when did a troop from the Heaven Imperial Court come to the purple cloud heavens? You golden-robed heavenly guards have risen in these tens of thousands of years. You fought against the heavenly demons and killed countless demons. We know this, and we also recognize you as good men. You are fighting. But the purpose of you killing the enemy is for the Heaven Imperial Court, not for the purple cloud heavens. That person's clothes were ragged and his hair was messy, but his eyes were as sharp as lightning. It was as if he wanted to stare into everyone's heart. Chuyang couldn't help but sigh. How could he not understand the mentality of these people? They had been abandoned for too long, which was why they hated the Heaven Imperial Court. This was human nature to begin with. Just think about it, one's home was destroyed, one's homeland was destroyed. And the Heaven Imperial Court army that they had high hopes for and expected to receive reinforcements never appeared. They anxiously waited for the arrival of the Heaven Imperial Court army to reclaim their lost land and return to their homeland, but they waited for 1,000,000 years without any news. As the saying goes, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. From disappointment to despair, this kind of complete abandonment and complete disregard, this kind of cold-heartedness was enough to make even the most good-tempered person break his heart. Not to mention these natives of the purple cloud heavens who grew up in the chaos of war and fought their way here. Even if the heavenly demons wreak havoc for a while, they will eventually be destroyed. Our homeland will eventually be reclaimed one day. Chuyang looked at the two people warmly and said seriously, "Please rest assured, this day won't be too far away." The two people laughed mournfully. Rest assured? What else do we have to worry about? We have long given up, we have no more heart. They laughed with grief and indignation. We, the people of the purple cloud heavens, have the strength of character of the people of the purple cloud heavens. We will always have the heavenly emperor of the purple cloud, Jianghu. We will continue to fight forever. As for you people of the Heaven Imperial Court, what do you want to do? What does it have to do with us? When the purple cloud heavens gradually fell, it took more than a day, but the 10 great heavens didn't send any reinforcements. When the southern capital of the purple cloud heavens was finally conquered by the heavenly demons and 30 million people were buried alive, where was the power of the Heaven Imperial Court? Now you are talking about reclaiming your homeland? When we were struggling to survive, we had no choice but to leave our homeland and live in the depths of the forest with ferocious beasts as companions, reproducing with difficulty. Every new generation has to know the history of the purple cloud heavens and our great heavenly emperor of the purple cloud, Jianghu, from the moment they were born. What? Because we know that the people of the Heaven Imperial Court won't remember us at all. They won't remember the purple cloud heavens, and they won't remember the heavenly emperor of the purple cloud. If we can't continue to strive for self-improvement, our heroes will truly be buried in this world. No one will ever know. From the moment a child of the purple cloud heavens is born, he will be accompanied by poisonous insects and ferocious beasts. From the age of 1 or 2 he will have to learn how to fight. From the age of 10 he will have to struggle on the edge of life and death every day, until he is killed or starved to death, or died in the mouths of ferocious beasts and poisonous insects. Do you know that in these hundreds of thousands of years, almost none of the remaining natives of the purple cloud heavens died of old age in a peaceful atmosphere? No matter if it was a man or a woman. The so-called dying of old age is almost a term of legend. That person's eyes were about to split open, and blood almost seeped out of his eyes. And all of you are full of glory and righteousness, guarding the first bridge, killing enemies in blood, and achieving great achievements for generations. You are dressed in bright clothes and your deeds are earth-shattering. You have written legends and created legends. But not once did you step out to rescue these survivors of the purple cloud heavens. I would like to ask all of you instead. That person smiled bitterly and calmly. Now in the Heaven Imperial Court, in all the school books, have there ever been a single word that mentioned the beginning and end of the battle of the fall of the purple cloud heavens? Has there ever been a single sentence that mentioned our unparalleled hero, the heavenly emperor of the purple cloud? Has there ever been a single incident that mentioned the survivors of the purple cloud heavens who have been struggling and fighting for the past 1,000,000 years? Has there? Ha! The two of them laughed loudly in unison and their voices split the sky. However, their laughter was full of sadness and anger. Chuyang sighed softly and was speechless for a moment. That's right. In so many years, other than the Eastern Royal Heavens and the Demon Emperor Heavens, the words Heavenly Demon, seemed to have disappeared from the books of enlightenment in the other heavens and earth. Now, in most places, no one knew about the great battle of the century that shook the heavens and earth back then. Back then, he had fought the heavenly emperor of the purple firmament alone. Now, there were not many people who still knew of him, especially among the commoners. Almost none of them knew his name. Faced with the sorrowful and angry accusatory eyes of these two people, even though Chu Yang was not a native of the Heaven Imperial Court, he could feel that every word and every sound was filled with blood and tears of accusation. They were all filled with sarcasm and contempt that filled the heavens and earth. Leaders and a few author friends really don't have much time here. In my place as the landlord. Chapter 2447. No matter what reason you have for coming here today, you are still humans. That person sneered and said, "From now on, you will gradually go deep into the heart of purple cloud heavens where the heavenly demon resides. The heavenly demon's strength is bound to get stronger and stronger. Although we don't like you, we still have to warn you seriously. If you feel that your strength is not good enough, quickly get back to the first bridge. The Heavenly Imperial Court doesn't recognize purple cloud heavens, but we, the survivors of purple cloud heavens, don't care to recognize the Heavenly Imperial Court either. You're on your own." The two of them let out a long howl in unison. They didn't even bother to greet each other as they turned around and disappeared into the dense forest. The bushes that the two of them passed by didn't even have the slightest sign of shaking. The two living people seemed to have disappeared into thin air. Only a voice came from afar, saying indifferently, "When the Heavenly Imperial Court forgets about hatred, when people get used to peace and happiness, when heroes are forgotten, when martyrs are no longer mentioned, when shame is buried in the dust, when glory is covered in dust, then the day of destruction is not far away. The Heavenly Imperial Court, you will definitely regret it." The indifferent voice sounded faintly in the sky, lingering in the ears. The voice still reverberated, but the two of them had already disappeared without a trace. Everyone stood in silence and no one spoke. Everyone felt as if their hearts were pressed by countless mountains, so heavy that they almost couldn't breathe. These few words were like a strange prophecy, fiercely smashing into everyone's heart, and they could no longer forget it. For a moment, everyone was speechless and sighing. Although Dai Jie didn't think that his actions were really so irresponsible, and although he knew that the two of them were talking about those people in the Heavenly Imperial Court who coveted pleasure and ease, he still couldn't help blushing. He was scolded to his heart's content and was worse than shit, but he couldn't get angry at all. He even had to give a thumbs up and praise, "Good man." Such an extremely disgusting feeling was really hard to describe with words. Zhuoqiu Yongqiuo looked up to the sky and sighed, saying, "One side is living a life of luxury, the other side is preparing for war. Once the war really starts, who will win and who will lose? It's really not optimistic." Xinyuan Changkong said quietly, "That layer of white fog is indeed a natural moat that stops the heavenly demons from advancing. However, it also stops the people from the Heaven Imperial Court from having the courage and desire for revenge. In this world, there are gains and losses and vice versa. The Double Heaven Imperial Court has been peaceful for millions of years. It would be weird if people's hearts weren't corrupted." Shiman Wanli continued, "However, this barrier cannot be breached and it cannot be removed on its own accord. Otherwise, the people will be plunged into misery and suffering. Furthermore, the people who will bear the brunt of this disaster will be the common people. Billions of deaths will not be a lie. This was a responsibility that no one could bear. We hold the line of defense at the first bridge with good intentions. In fact, we are trying our best to maintain the false peace on the other side. Is there really any meaning to all of this? However, Tiankei still needs a war. Otherwise, how can we rouse the blood of Tiankei's people? We need a catastrophe to wake the people of Tiankei up. Just because they don't face it doesn't mean they don't have to face it. They have to face what they have to face. Although war can cause countless innocent deaths, after a long period of peace, we have to use blood and fire to awaken something." Zhuoqiu Yunfu smiled bitterly. "However, when we really face it, who will be at fault if hundreds of millions or even billions of innocent souls are killed because of war?" Everyone was speechless. Everyone knew the logic and everyone had already understood it. However, when they really faced it, who could be calm and clear? As they moved forward, everyone became more and more silent. Faced with the current situation, they really didn't know what else they could do. They didn't know whether their persistence in the past was meaningful or how long they could hold on. They were filled with melancholy, powerlessness and helplessness. Chu Yang pursed his lips tightly. From the bottom of his heart, he felt that there had never been a moment that made him feel so pressed for time. The plan that he and his tribulation brothers had to be carried out in advance. Not only had the heavenly demons reached a point where there was no room for delay, the hearts of the people who needed to be saved had also reached a point where there was no room for delay. However, if the heavenly demons could be destroyed, how could the hearts of the people be saved? Sister Z, why didn't you reveal your identity when you faced the remnants of the purple cloud heavens just now? I believe that if you did, they would definitely be happy to see you return. Jianghu was a little puzzled. She asked, I clearly saw that you were so agitated that you were trembling all over, but you didn't. Zi Xiecheng let out a long sigh, her face full of shame. How could I not know that as long as I revealed my identity, they would definitely change their view of us? However, it's precisely because of this that I, the princess of the purple cloud heavens, who had never done anything for the purple cloud heavens, what position do I have to speak? What right do I have to accept the worship of the remnants of the purple cloud heavens who had struggled and fought for millions of years? If I were to reveal my identity in front of them one day, then I must do something before that day comes, do something that I should do. At least until I'm worthy of the title, daughter of the heavenly emperor of the purple cloud heavens. Only then will I reveal my identity. Otherwise, I really don't have any dignity to meet them now. The current me doesn't deserve their loyalty at all. Zi Xiecheng's eyes were full of deep stubbornness. Chu Yang and the rest walked through the last part of the journey without any surprises or dangers. Along the way they passed by countless intact or dilapidated towns. However, there were only traces of the heavenly demons in sight. The grief and indignation along the way could be imagined. This was originally the territory of humans, the home of the people. Finally, their destination, the purple imperial city, was in sight. Chu Yang looked ahead and couldn't help but be a little lost in thought. His face was full of solemnity and respect. Because Chu Yang finally saw the legendary impregnable pass that occupied the purple cloud heavens. That was the first impregnable pass of the heavenly imperial court that had appeared countless times in the last words of the purple cloud heavenly emperor. In that illusory scene, the impregnable pass had also appeared countless times. That was a huge gate. On both sides were towering city walls, all made of steel. The city walls were 1,000 feet tall and hundreds of feet thick. They extended continuously on both sides as if there was no end. In the middle was an infinitely majestic gate. As if it could hold up the whole world. Right above the gate were 3 big words, Purple Cloud Pass. Even from far away it could be seen clearly. It was unknown just how many fierce battles this majestic city wall had endured in the past. Although the mottled spots on it had already been repaired too many times, they could still be seen clearly. On the towering city wall, a huge flag with a radius of 10,000 feet stood tall and fluttered in the wind. Purple Cloud Heavens. Seeing these 3 words, Zi Xiecheng couldn't hold back her tears anymore and they flowed out. This was the war flag of the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor. Although this was obviously no longer the original side, it could still be seen that the heavenly demons had tried their best to maintain the original appearance. This was their greatest respect to the hero of this generation. And on both sides of the pass there was a couplet. On the couplet, there was that kind of heroic handwriting that went straight to heaven and earth. But there are the Purple Cloud Heavenly soldiers here. Heavenly demons can forget about passing this pass. Even after millions of years, the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor's handwriting still stood tall and mighty. Proud of the world. Facing this shocking building, those steely and awe-inspiring handwriting, everyone knelt down neatly. To the hero respect. To the legend worship. Yes, you have done it. You have fulfilled the promise expressed by this sentence. In the end, the Purple Cloud Heavens fought to the last soldier and the heavenly demons didn't pass this pass. Until all of them died in battle. After the heavenly demons surged into the Purple Cloud Pass, what they faced was an empty city that spanned tens of thousands of miles. As long as there was one person and one breath, the heavenly demons couldn't pass. Unless all of us were dead. In the solemn silence, Zi Xiecheng was already sobbing uncontrollably. In front of the pass. As far as the eye could see, there was a dense crowd shuttling back and forth. All of them were oddly shaped and most of them were short and small. They were the various races of the heavenly demons, gathered here. They entered and exited unusually peacefully with little noise. They entered and exited this pass that originally belonged to the hero quietly. When everyone saw this scene they gritted their teeth and their breathing was unusually heavy. They couldn't hide their murderous intent any longer, and their deep grief and indignation were almost about to burst out. The heavenly demons who came and went looked at these people of different races. Although their eyes were vigilant, curious and even a little cruel. They didn't react at all. They just passed by like this, even though they kept turning back to look. But here no one made any noise and no one attacked. When Chu Yang and the rest entered the city gate, they found a notice board that explained this silence. Below it, 2 swords were crossed, holding up this notice board high up. Purple cloud, holy ground, no noise. Those who disobey will die. Below the order was a black emperor's seal. This was the heavenly demon's supreme symbol of imperial power, the heavenly emperor's seal. With endless grief and indignation, Chu Yang and the rest walked into this past that was stained with the blood of countless heroes. They walked into the destination of this trip, the Purple Imperial City, the place where the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor fought a bloody battle back then. Zi Shiqing's hometown. At this moment, no one knew what they were feeling when they walked in. It was difficult for them to grasp the emotions they had when they walked in. When the 14 of them walked into this impregnable pass, countless heavenly demon troops suddenly appeared on the horizon outside the Purple Imperial City from all directions. They came from all directions, closing in on him without leaving a single gap. It was a tight encirclement, not leaving a single gap. Further away, there was a huge black mass of heavenly demon troops gathering, gradually approaching this side. However, all the heavenly demon troops stopped 30 miles away from the Purple Imperial City and stood still. The heavenly demon troops gathered more and more, and gradually they couldn't see the end of it. With the current lineup, the heavenly demons had mobilized at least 10 million troops. And their goal was precisely these 14 people. Chapter 2448. The extraterrestrial demons mobilized tens of millions of troops, and their goal was precisely these 14 people. This huge action undoubtedly showed the great determination of the extraterrestrial demon to keep these people here at all costs. Despite such a huge action, all the extraterrestrial demons were silent. These golden-robed heavenly guards had already entered the Purple Imperial City. When they came out, it would be the beginning of a tragic and bloody battle. And the end of this bloody battle would definitely end with the fall of all the golden-robed heavenly guards. No matter how many extraterrestrial demons they had to sacrifice, they would not hesitate. No matter what, they had to eliminate the biggest obstacle to the extraterrestrial demons' march into the Heaven Imperial City in these years here. They absolutely could not allow any of them to return alive. On Chu Yang's side, everyone was well aware of the situation outside the city. They all clearly knew that the extraterrestrial demons had already surrounded this place like an iron bucket. It was airtight and there was no space to be found. Even the way back was filled with traps and layers upon layers of ambushes. But everyone's expression did not change and they were not afraid at all. The 14 of them strolled leisurely in the Purple Imperial City, wantonly looking at the surrounding scenery, looking at the traces of the battle from back then, reminiscing about the deeds of the countless heroic souls from back then. With a feeling of pilgrimage they moved forward, moving forward towards their destination. Everyone directly ignored the densely packed extraterrestrial demons that could be seen everywhere. Even the extraterrestrial demons could respect our heroes, so of course they could not lose face. In front of the heroic souls, what we maintain is the demeanor of the Heaven Imperial City. This is the pride of humans. If there comes a day when we reclaim the Purple Imperial City, we will not hesitate to kill all the extraterrestrial demons here, and leave them without descendants. But before that we will not do anything here. Today we will not do anything. We will not disturb the rest of the heroic souls for momentary pleasure. Right in the center of the Purple Imperial City, there was an unusually huge square. In the center of the square, there was a statue of golden armor. Visually, this statue was at least 1,000 feet tall, towering majestically. The golden statue held a sword in its hand and a cold light flashed. Its 2 feet were one in front and one behind, as if it was about to fight angrily. Its resolute face was full of contempt and arrogance, and its eyes were full of persistent murderous intent. This golden statue was the statue of the heavenly emperor of the purple clouds, Zihao himself. It was vivid and lifelike. Just looking at this statue was like seeing the arrogance and disregard of the purple firmament heavenly emperor when he was at the end of his rope, facing billions of heavenly demons alone. This was a kind of heroic spirit that seeped out from the bones, a heroic spirit. And the innate peerless aura. Zi Shiqing watched in a daze as tears filled her eyes. With tears in her eyes, she seemed to be able to see the scene of her father fighting a bloody battle alone. I'm Zihao, the heavenly emperor of the purple firmament heaven. Skyfiend, come and fight me. Even though millions of years had passed since then, the words of the purple cloud heavenly emperor still seemed to reverberate in this place. Even if he was fighting alone, even if he was isolated and without help, even if he was at the end of his rope, even if he was at the end of his rope. However, I am still Zihao, still full of pride, still a peerless hero. Zi Sheqing knelt before the statue and refused to get up. This is my home. One day I will go home. I want to take my home back from the hands of my enemies. Father, mother, your daughter is back to see you. Thank you. I want to say that I miss you all. I have never hated you all. I love you all. Very, very much. When I dream, sometimes I dream of you all. Did you all come to see me? I hope that I can dream of you all every day. Even if it is a dream, it is also good. Zi Shiqing said softly. Father, mother, do you know when I came here, my heart suddenly calmed down. Although you are no longer here, I can still feel that you are here. You are still here. I have a home. I'm very happy. Chu Yang is very good to me. If you see me, you will definitely give me your blessings. Father, mother, I miss you all. That night, Zi Shiqing fell asleep in Chu Yang's arms unknowingly. This girl, who had always been strong and independent, was like a fragile baby tonight. She fell asleep without any defense. She had a dream. She dreamed of her parents. Tears flowed down her face. 2 days and 2 nights later. When it was time to leave, Zi Shiqing had already regained her usual calmness. After experiencing 2 days and 2 nights in this purple imperial city, she seemed to have found comfort in her heart. Her wandering heart finally settled down. And it was an unprecedented sense of security. Her parents were in front of her and he was by her side. When we come here again, Purple Cloud Heavens will definitely have recovered. I swear. Chu Yang swore silently in his heart. Looking at the statue of the heavenly emperor of Purple Cloud and the sword in his hand, Chu Yang's eyes lit up. Heroes should not be covered in dust. Heroes should not be covered in dust. Purple Cloud Heavens will definitely recover. The heavenly demons will definitely be destroyed. I swear to the heavens. Indestructible heavenly demons, if I don't take revenge, I am not human. I am Chu Yang, Calamity Sword Master Chu Yang, the successor of Purple Cloud Heavens. Besides, I am also your son-in-law Chu Yang. Goodbye, father-in-law. Your Majesty. In the near future we will definitely meet again. Before the heavenly demons are destroyed, that will be the time for us to meet again. When Chu Yang and the rest of the 14 people walked out of the city gates after paying their respects, they saw all the Heavenly Fiend clan members looking at them strangely along the way. Or perhaps it could not be said to be strange. It was actually also a kind of gaze that was rational and expected. It was a gaze that contained hatred, loathing, and pleasure. They stared at the 14 people as if they were looking at dead people. It seemed that everyone was sure of one thing, and that was that as long as these 14 people left the city, they would definitely die. Everyone was well aware of the Heavenly Fiend clan's mentality, but they also snorted disdainfully. In the end, they only smiled indifferently. Walking out of the city gates, everyone looked back in unison. Finally, they took a deep look at the Purple Imperial City. This castle that had fallen into the hands of a foreign race was the sacred place of all the hot-blooded men in the world. Today we will temporarily leave. We are about to leave with a sky full of blood, a stench in the air, and endless corpses. When we return, it will definitely be the time of Purple Cloud Heaven's recovery. After a glance, everyone turned back resolutely, no longer feeling sentimental. They began to walk together. They had only walked for about a dozen miles. After going over a slope, they saw the densely packed Heavenly Fiend army in the distance, with no end in sight. The innumerable army was like a stretch of pitch-black demonic fog that stretched straight to the sky, as if there was no end in sight. In all directions there were Heavenly Fiends densely packed together. The Heavenly Fiend Horde's army of 10 million was silent at this moment, but that silent and heavy aura seemed to be able to freeze the air. Such a formation could be said to have gained the upper hand by a show of strength. Those who were slightly weaker in mental strength did not even need to fight. Just by looking at this formation and the great disparity in their battle power, they would immediately collapse. The wind blew across the sky, causing countless flags to flutter. That indescribable murderous aura pounced on them and filled the sky. What a great battle array. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes and laughed softly. He said, Gold-robed heavenly guards have indeed become the greatest threat to the heavenly fiends. Just by looking at this formation, it's not hard to guess that they are already determined to win this battle at all costs. Ji Huitian stood expressionlessly with his hands behind his back. He said lightly, they are destined to be disappointed. It's not such an easy thing to block the path of our brother Tribulation. These two sentences caused everyone's eyes to shine. Brother Tribulation. The long-awaited appellation, finally reappeared. Everyone's blood suddenly boiled, and they found it difficult to control themselves. None of us can die in this battle. Jianghu raised his eyebrows and said softly, if we really want to die, it must also be after we kill all the heavenly fiends. That is the heavenly Emperor of Purple Cloud's wish. It is also the chance that Big Brother sacrificed everything for us. Not only must we be worthy of the heavenly Emperor of Purple Cloud, we must also be worthy of Big Brother. We must not let Big Brother down. Everyone nodded silently. Chuyang looked deeply at Jianghu. He was indeed worthy of being Tribulation's think tank. Just this sentence was undoubtedly the strongest mobilization order to all the Tribulation brothers. It was also the strongest life-saving talisman. It was easy for a person to fight with all his might as long as he had the intention. But for a person to work tirelessly in a hopeless situation and try his best to survive, it was truly an extremely difficult thing. And the belief to work hard to survive was undoubtedly the only driving force to create this miracle. How can we not value the things that Big Brother exchanged with his life? How can we give up so easily? We have already let Big Brother down, how can we bear to disappoint him again? Our lives no longer belong to us but to Big Brother. How can we die before we complete the long-cherished wish that he wanted to complete but didn't have the chance to? The heavenly fiend army in the distance parted, and a few figures rose up and rushed into the sky. Then, with their hands behind their backs, they floated in the air. Their limbs and bodies didn't move, but they were extremely confident and at ease as they traveled with the wind. 10 heavenly fiends. It could be seen that these heavenly fiends who came out of the crowd were the leaders of each team. Jianghu and the others looked at the 10 heavenly fiends coming slowly, their eyes calm and unperturbed. Golden-robed heavenly guards? The leader of the heavenly fiends was dressed in brocade and had a golden crown. He was very different from the ordinary heavenly fiends. This person didn't have a ferocious face like the ordinary heavenly fiends. Instead, he was strangely shaped and had a fair complexion. He looked no different from the ordinary humans in the heavenly imperial court. Other than that, he exuded an air of elegance. His voice was also elegant and calm, filled with a kind of admirable demeanor of a king. Alarm bells rang in everyone's hearts at the same time. This heavenly fiend's cultivation was definitely extraordinary. He was probably not below Jianghu, who had the highest cultivation among them. Chapter 2449. Jianghu took a step forward and said, "We are golden-clothed heavenly guards. Who are you in the heavenly devil land? What is your identity? Tell us your name. We brothers have killed many heavenly devils, but it's rare to kill someone like you." That golden-crowned heavenly devil laughed and said, "As expected of the golden-clothed heavenly guards, your tone is not small. I can't tell you my name and you can't kill me." He pondered for a moment, then suddenly raised his head and said, "You guys, better surrender. You guys have no way forward, no way back. My army has gathered a large army to encircle and suppress you. There are many experts and the difference in strength is too great. You guys have no way out. Your only chance of survival is to surrender to me, and I can guarantee that you guys won't die. Furthermore, I promise that as long as you guys can surrender, the tens of thousands of years of killing will be written off, and I won't pursue it anymore." Ha ha ha. Jianghu looked up to the sky and laughed. His laughter was extremely joyous, as if he had heard a great joke. Then he shouted, "Brothers! Here!" Everyone shouted in unison. "This demon brat actually wants us to surrender. Everyone tell me, isn't this joke a good one?" "Well said, I really didn't expect this devil cub to have such a talent for telling jokes." That's right, a real person doesn't show his true colors." For a moment cheers rang out. That golden-crowned heavenly devil's face turned cold as he said solemnly, "This is definitely not a joke. This is your last chance of survival. Don't make a mistake." Jianghu pretended to be stunned when he heard that. "What? It's not a joke, brothers? This devil cub said that what he said just now was not a joke. How can it not be a joke? If it's not a joke, then it's his heart that's crazy. These heavenly devils are all brainless, right? Otherwise, how can they say such words? Directly taking on a part-time job, thoroughly disgraceful. A heavenly devil who can say such idiotic words must have smashed his head against the wall when he was born. He must have been born with a head full of tofu dregs, right?" Haha. That golden-crowned heavenly devil leader's expression changed again and again. At this moment he had already become somewhat sullen. He was still able to endure and did not immediately explode. He asked solemnly again, "Why are you guys doing this? I am indeed sincere this time. Why are you mocking me like this?" His eyes were filled with anger. "Even if you don't accept my sincerity, you don't have to humiliate your opponents like this. You people from Tianke have such low standards." "Bullshit." Yan Fei scolded, "You were the one who insulted us first and now you're accusing us of insulting you? Are you that handsome? How could we be in the mood to insult you? Even if you want to raise your own status, you don't have to do this, right?" "What did you say? I insulted you first? When did I insult you?" The heavenly demon was at a loss. He argued loudly. Zhuoqiu Yunfu smiled faintly, but the light in his eyes was as sharp as a blade. "Your original intention has nothing to do with us. However, when you asked us to surrender, you were already insulting us." He puffed out his chest and said loudly, "We are brothers of tribulation. How can we surrender to the outsiders? If you come up here and fight, I'll fight you. Regardless of life or death, victory or defeat, it's a form of respect for us. But you want us to surrender to you? Ah. You actually treat us as the kind of people who can be recruited to surrender. If this is not insulting us, what else can it be?" That golden crown heavenly devil was silent for a moment. Then he revealed a relieved expression and said, "I see." His eyes were filled with endless regret. If he could make these humans surrender wholeheartedly, there would be a lot of benefits. In addition to being able to continue to send them back to guard the first bridge and build a fortress that was difficult for the human race to break through. The heavenly devil army could also sneak into Heaven Imperial Court as they wished. But now, this idea had undoubtedly become a bubble. These people would definitely not surrender. Since there was no hope of getting them to surrender, he could only. The heavenly devil nodded. His eyes gradually revealed a sharp murderous intent as he said word by word, "You're right. I shouldn't have planned to make you surrender. Since that's the case, let's fight." He seemed to want to say something, but in the end he didn't. He suddenly rose into the air and quickly flew backward. A pair of huge black wings suddenly appeared on his body. With the appearance of the black wings, his speed increased by several times, and he quickly left the attack range of Zhuoqiu Yunquo and the others. Then he roared in the air, "Kill! Kill with all your might. Don't leave a single one alive." The tens of millions of heavenly devils around him roared at the same time. Their voices were earth-shattering. In the next moment, heavenly devils from all directions rushed over to attack. The tens of millions of troops moved together. Their momentum was inexplicably shocking, and the ground was almost shaking violently. "Everyone quickly surround them." Zhuoqiu Yunquo shouted in a low voice. "Set up the Tribulation Unification Formation. No matter what, we have to charge out of this battle alive. This is definitely not where we belong." "Yes." After a series of responses, 7 camps were formed at the same time. A series of shrill voices could be heard, "Calamity Merge Formation. Rise. Glory for thousands of years, only my tribulation. With my brothers by my side, I'm invincible. Tribulation Unification Formation, I'm invincible." After a long roar, Ji Huetian's body shone with golden light. Holding his sword, he took the lead and stepped out. The 8 brothers followed closely behind. The formation of stars was impressively formed. First they occupied a position. This was the beginning, and then the 3rd-generation Tribulation brother followed closely behind, occupying another position. This is the Tribulation 7 Stars formation. Although they were only standing in 2 positions, Chu Yang had already seen through it immediately. He couldn't help but look over worriedly. Now, only the 7th-generation Tribulation was together. Therefore, even if everyone were to form a formation, they could only form the Tribulation 7 Stars formation at most. Moreover, this formation had a rather fatal flaw. There were no flaws in the Tribulation 7 Stars formation itself. It was definitely a first-class super formation. When used together, it could integrate all the battle power and increase it by several times. As long as the formation wasn't broken and messed up, the battle power formed by the formation wouldn't be depleted. But the problem now was that there weren't enough people to form the formation at the moment. The 2nd-generation Tribulation, 3rd-generation Tribulation, 4th-generation Tribulation and 7th-generation Tribulation were all complete individuals. Their partial formations were naturally complete as well. However, among the 5th-generation Tribulation brothers, Wu Jueqing was missing. Among the 7th-generation Tribulation brothers, Diwu Chouchang was missing. Although only 2 people were missing, it was enough to cause flaws in the operation of the formation. These two flaws were destined to be irreparable. Once the Tribulation 7 Stars formation was activated, other than the formation's power being greatly reduced, there was also the potential danger of the enemy taking advantage of the situation. Although everyone was well aware of this matter, they had no way to resolve it. Even if Zhuge Hutu, Zhuoqiu Yun, Shimin Wanli, Xinyuan Changkong and other think tanks, there was nothing they could do about this. Although there were disadvantages in using this formation, it also had the advantage of increasing battle power. If they didn't use this formation, the situation would be even more dangerous. Therefore they could only hold on. The heavenly demon army was getting closer and closer. Once the battle started, there was no turning back. Although there were flaws in the Tribulation 7 Stars formation, it was already the best way for Tribulation and the others to deal with. Although they knew it was a risk, they could only hold on. You don't have to care about us. Jun Weiling laughed. As long as you can charge out, we can die without regrets. Moreover, although we have one less person, we may not really die. On the other side, Lu Long laughed heartily. That's right, let's fight. Wait. Please wait. Chu Yang hurriedly stopped him. Then he said hurriedly, Qingwu, go to Jun Weiling's side and play the role of Wu Jueqing. Perfect Tribulation's partial formation. Make sure that there are no flaws in the formation and give the enemy a chance to take advantage of it. Mo Qingwu nodded. Her red dress fluttered. In a flash, she had already gone to Wu Jueqing's empty position. Ignoring everyone's puzzled looks, Chu Yang said, Big Sister Z, you will fill Diwu Chouchang's position. Make sure that the formation is complete. Zi Shiqing agreed. Her white figure fluttered and she was already standing in Lu Long's team. Although Zhuoqiu Yongqiu and the others knew that Chu Yang's arrangement was well-intentioned, they still couldn't help but frown. Isn't this nonsense? One must know that this Tribulation 7 Stars formation was a special formation jointly created by many generations of tribulations. Naturally, it couldn't be compared to an ordinary battle formation. It wasn't something that could be made up by just adding one more person. Otherwise, Zhuoqiu Yongqiu and the others would have already invited Chu Yang and the others to help. If those who participated in the formation weren't Tribulation's brothers, they wouldn't know how to operate this formation at all. If they forcefully joined in, not only would it be useless, it would even cause the formation to collapse from within. Once such a situation occurred, they would undoubtedly be destroyed by the enemy at the first instance. Of course, if there was a Tribulation Sword Master supporting them, such a situation could still be avoided. But now, not only did they not have a Tribulation Sword Master, even Tribulation wasn't complete. Joining in so hastily was simply fooling around. They might even be sacrificing everyone's lives in vain. Not to mention, there was also Tribulation's sister and the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor's daughter. If something were to happen, how would they be able to bear the responsibility? Even if they died in the spring, they wouldn't be able to rest in peace. Chu Yang seems to be a very clever person. How can he be so reckless as to give out orders? But before they could react further, a large group of heavenly demons had already rushed over. Countless swords and sabers shone with cold light and fell neatly. Now that things had come to this, it was too late to change anything. Forcefully changing the formation would only further damage their own battle power. They could only resign themselves to fate and do their best. Charge. Ji Huitian took the lead. He flew up and rushed into the crowd of heavenly demons. Chapter 2450. It was only a moment of contact, but dozens of heavenly demons were sent flying with blood spurting out of their mouths. Their bodies were torn into pieces, and they died without a complete corpse. Ji Huitian attacked with his sword. However, no one saw how his sword appeared or how it killed people. There wasn't even sword light, but those heavenly demons were sent flying like minced meat. Following Ji Huitian's actions, the group of brothers beside him also moved in unison. The other large group also moved in unison. The 14 of them were like a huge sharp arrow, shooting into the crowd of heavenly demons without turning back. Everywhere they passed, there was a rain of blood and a foul wind. There are no less than 10 million heavenly demons. In the midst of the battle, Zhuoqiu Yongqiu could still kill people calmly, calculate calmly and speak calmly. However, those who can really come into contact with us and fight with us won't exceed 1,000 people. Kill the 1,000 people in front of us, then face the next 1,000 people. Actually, our target is only 1,000 people. From the beginning to the end, it's only 1,000 people. Everyone, do you understand? We don't need to use all our strength to deal with 1,000 people. We just need to kill them. Charge forward as we kill. Charge forward all the way and don't change the initial direction of our advance. Brothers on both sides focus on defense. The group at the back don't fall behind. Operate the 7 stars formation at full power. Don't slack off or make any mistakes. No one is allowed to think about dying. We have to go back alive. And we can definitely do it. Amidst the deafening battle cries, Zhuqiu Yunqiu's voice was like cold water that had reached the freezing point. It slowly flowed into the hearts of every brother who was fighting. He actually sounded calm and relaxed. Everyone listened carefully to Zhuqiu Yunqiu's analysis. They didn't stop at all and charged forward with all their might. At this stage, the heavenly demon soldiers are exhausting our combat power. When they think that it's a suitable time, it's the time for their experts to attack. If the first attack doesn't succeed, the subsequent attacks will definitely be more ferocious. The order in which their experts attack is probably one wave after another. Everyone pay attention to the appearance of each wave at all times. They are using the deaths of their own people to create opportunities and time for themselves. Therefore these guys will never be able to compare to us. Zhuqiu Yunfu laughed. Because we will never use our brothers. What's more, he's using his life. Therefore, against such a despicable race, we will definitely win. Zhuqiu Yunqiu let out a long cry, and his sword flashed with thousands of cold beams, cutting down all the heavenly devils in front of him. That's why we must win. He let out a long howl and laughed. His voice was like a clap of thunder resounding through the sky. All the Tribulation brothers laughed at the same time. Yes, they are far worse than us. We will win. Actually, we are bullying them. I don't even feel anything when I fight. There's no sense of accomplishment at all. It's really too easy. There's no pressure at all. Haha. High up in the sky, the 10 leaders of the heavenly demons stood there looking down at the battlefield. Ji Huitian and the others were like a big ship, cleaving through the waves and advancing bravely. Their advancing speed was really fast to the extreme. The heavenly demon army that clearly had the absolute advantage in terms of numbers was actually unable to stop them at all. Now, many of the heavenly devil horde had already been left behind by them. These heavenly devil hordes' unhindered pursuit speed was actually unable to keep up with Ji Huitian and the rest's breakout speed. In other words, if Ji Huitian and the rest's breakout speed was still the same, then there were already a considerable number of heavenly devil horde that could no longer pose a threat to them. Indeed, very strong. Really very strong. That golden-crowned heavenly devil sighed softly. They are infuriating us. Another heavenly devil said with some apprehension. But we cannot make a move, at least not at this stage. The golden-crowned heavenly devil's gaze was deep as he said, "It is not easy for a high-level heavenly devil to appear. We must not waste them so easily. Let's follow the established strategy and first use the cannon fodder army to weaken their spirit. Wait until a certain extent, then send out the experts to kill them. This is a foolproof plan. I'm afraid the losses will be very big. Another heavenly devil grinned as he looked down at the waves of blood that were rushing up like torrential rain. He felt that his lips were somewhat dry. This is something that can't be helped. If the losses are not big, they are not worthy of being called golden-robed heavenly guards. How would they be able to stop our footsteps for close to 100,000 years? The golden-crowned heavenly devil said indifferently. The other heavenly devil generals sighed inwardly and decided not to persuade him any further. Because the general had already decided, it was useless to persuade him any further. But if they did so, even if they could preserve the strength of the upper echelons to the greatest extent, by the time these 14 people were killed, the number of sacrifices in this army of 10 million would be an extremely terrifying number. Even if these heavenly devil horde were cannon fodder, they were still heavenly devil soldiers. Losing so many heavenly devil horde in one go was definitely an expensive price to pay. Even if they were willing to pay this expensive price, another question that was worth discussing was, could they really keep these people alive? This was something that no one could be sure of. Those golden-robed heavenly guards had created too many impossible miracles in the past. Looking down at Ji Huitian and the rest who were weaving through the army of 10 million, everyone felt their scalps go numb. The strength of these golden-robed heavenly guards was truly too terrifying. Compared to the shock of the heavenly devils, Ji Huitian and the rest were even more surprised. Originally, they thought that Zi Xiecheng and Mo Qingwu's rash participation in the Tribulation Battle Formation in a futile attempt to perfect the Tribulation Battle Brothers' Tribulation Battle Formation was simply a meaningless act. It would definitely not have any positive effect and could even easily cause destructive damage. But now it seemed that everyone was greatly shocked. Although the addition of these two people had indeed caused an astonishing destructive effect, this effect was completely used on the enemy. The reason why such an effect could be created was that in this battlefield where thousands of soldiers and horses were fighting, the strength of the 7 tribulation battle teams was actually completely neck and neck, completely and perfectly compatible. None of the teams were even half a step behind. The entire tribulation 7-star formation was flawless, only unprecedentedly strong. Jun Weiling and Lu Long, these 2 tribulation teams, had always been the 2 weakest teams among the tribulation battle brothers. It was not because their strength was slightly weaker but because they had lost members. Especially in team battles, this weakness was even more obvious. Although each team only had 1 less person, the result of this loss was the loss of the natural strength of each individual. So these 2 teams had always been lagging behind. But the fact that they were neck and neck with each other this time proved one thing. The 2 women that Chu Yang had casually sent out were actually able to perfect the tribulation unification formation. Not only that, the flaws in the tribulation unification formation were no longer there, but they were also able to make up for it perfectly. No matter what kind of battle they were facing, these 2 women's coordination and positioning were not weaker than anyone else's. They were even more proficient than others. With their perfect coordination, the tribulation battle formation reached the extreme state of perfection for the first time. What was going on? Another bigger question was, how did these 2 women know the secret of the tribulation battle formation? That Mo Qingwu, although one of the tribulation battle brothers' younger sister, should not know about it? The tribulation battle brothers would never reveal the secret of the tribulation battle brothers to outsiders, even if it was their own brothers. And that Princess Zishao, she was even more baffled. Why did she know? If the younger sister of the tribulation battle brothers of this generation knew, it would barely make sense, or perhaps her brother accidentally let it slip. Although this kind of situation was also basically impossible. Then, it was really too unreasonable for Princess Zishao to know about this. But now that they were in the middle of a great battle, who had the time to ask such questions? It was more important to hurry up and face the enemy with all their might. Although everyone had a belly full of doubts and puzzlement, they could only fight with all their might at the moment, and only by really rushing out and escaping to heaven. Only then would there be room for an answer to this mystery. Zi Sheqing's white dress fluttered, her figure was graceful, but her attacks had nothing to do with her beautiful figure. Her attacks were only brutal and domineering and invincible. Mo Qingwu's red dress fluttered, and her heavenly dance was fully performed. That dance was like a fairy in a fairyland, but it brought out a kind of heroic spirit. As she danced, the dreaming of a gentle dance saber sprinkled out pieces of dreamy saber light, and the surrounding heavenly demons fell down one by one just like that. Some heavenly demons fell to the ground and died, but there was still a look of intoxication and appreciation on their faces. It turned out that beauty could also be so beautiful that it could kill. After a while, the face of the leader of the heavenly demons in midair finally changed, and he was no longer calm. Because he noticed Mo Qingwu's attack, the muscles on his face actually twitched subconsciously, and there was a feeling of an old scene reappearing suddenly. Isn't this the famous consummate skill of the Purple Cloud Heaven's Emperor's wife? The heavenly demon with the golden crown somewhat lost his composure, and his face was pale as he muttered to himself, "Back then, my father, the Lord of Earth Demons, died under this beautiful dreamy heavenly dance. I didn't expect this heavenly dance to actually reappear in the world today." Heavenly dance. Is it really the legendary heavenly dance? Beside him, the faces of a few heavenly demon generals also changed greatly. The heavenly demon horde respected the heavenly emperor of Zishao, but that earth-shattering battle back then also caused all the heavenly demons to suffer from a phobia of some names. For example, the heavenly emperor of Zizhao's Purple Cloud Tower and Purple Cloud Sword. Another example, Ling Piaoping's heavenly dance. Chapter 2451. Back then, Ling Piaoping used up all of her life's potential to dance in the sky, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. That boundless beauty contained boundless killing intent, causing the Earth Demon army of 3 million, including the Lord of Earth Demons, to all die in one afternoon. Although Ling Piaoping finally died after that battle, she was like a lamp that ran out of oil. However, the words Tianwu deeply wedged themselves into the hearts of the extraterrestrial demons. Tianwu, the undefeatable Tianwu. This dreamlike skill haunted everyone like a nightmare for a long time. At this very moment, this lost dream had actually appeared in front of him once again. Moreover, it was displayed on such an outstanding woman. What was the relationship between this woman and the heavenly emperor of purple clouds, Goddess Piaoping? Goddess Piaoping, Ling Piaoping, was the only person who had once killed more demons than the Heavenly Emperor of Purple Clouds, Zihao. Would the nightmare of the past really appear again today? For a moment, all the extraterrestrial demons fixed their eyes on Jianghu. The leaders of the extraterrestrial demon horde were all guessing. How did this beautiful woman in red obtain Ling Piaoping's inheritance? In the battle back then, Ling Piaoping and Tianwu's might had intimidated the heavenly demon horde. The heavenly demon horde had launched an investigation because of Tianwu's fear. After 1,000 years of investigation, it was finally confirmed that Tianwu no longer had a successor. Ling Piaoping was the last one. One had to know that goddess Piaoping Ling Piaoping was famous. However, there was no successor back then. The reason why there was no successor. On one hand, Ling Piaoping was already the empress of the heavenly emperor of Purple Clouds. Her identity was special, and she was no longer suitable to be a teacher. Another, more important reason was that the conditions to inherit Tianwu were very difficult to meet. In addition to the need for exceptional talent, aptitude and foundation, there were many other restrictions. For example, only a woman could inherit it and only a beautiful woman could inherit it. It was not easy to find a suitable successor. Until Ling Piaoping's death, no one had been found who could inherit the power. After confirming this, many extraterrestrial demon horde rejoiced. The peerless dance of one dance killed a city, another dance killed a country, was finally no longer seen. However, today at this moment, the dreamlike elegy dance reappeared before their eyes. How could the extraterrestrial demon horde not be shocked? This woman's current cultivation is still far from goddess Piaoping's level, but she already has about 40% of Tianwu's peak power. The extraterrestrial demon with the golden crown looked at Jianghu. Extraterrestrial demons fell in droves. Extraterrestrial demon horde. His eyes were serious. He said, "This isn't right." Right, that woman can't unleash 40% of Tianwu's peak power. It should also be enhanced by that strange formation, and the enhancement effect is quite large. That's right. The battle formation is the battle. This battle formation has both offense and defense. It is indestructible and unbreakable. Pull one hair and the whole body will be affected. Move the whole body and the branch will be scattered to the end. Their individual powers are perfectly integrated. Any attack against one person will be shared by them. If this theory is true, even if Demon King level experts attack together, they won't be able to destroy one person at the same time. As long as they don't destroy one person at the same time, they will have to face their full counterattack. You can imagine how dangerous it is. The extraterrestrial demon with the golden crown stared at the Calamity Unification formation and frowned. Inside, the 13 people have formed 7 such battle formations. Every group is the most perfect battle formation. The most terrifying thing is that these 7 battle formations have a subtle connection with each other. It's as if the 7 small formations have formed an invisible great formation. That is to say, at least at this stage, as long as you fight with them, no matter which direction you come from, you may have to face the joint attack of the 13 people. Of course, the premise is that you are worth the joint attack of so many people. If the situation continues to develop, the result is not optimistic. The extraterrestrial demon with the golden crown pondered for a moment. He made up his mind and said, "Pass down the order. Use the Jade Shattering Tactic." Jade Shattering Tactic. All the generals trembled at the same time. The Jade Shattering Tactic was the general name of the extraterrestrial demon's desperate tactics. This tactic was not to seek victory after defeat or to seek opportunities in danger. Instead, it was a suicidal tactic to fight with the enemy with one's life. Every extraterrestrial demon who participated in the battle, no matter what kind of attack they faced, would launch a self-detonation attack at the same time. No matter whether they could kill the enemy in the end, the person who used this tactic would definitely die. However, they could use all their power to turn into an earth-shattering explosion to attack the target. 100,000 extraterrestrial demons? Let's see the result of this battle. The extraterrestrial demon with the golden crown's voice was extremely cold at this moment. His eyes flashed with a crazy and vicious light. 100,000 Jade Shattering Tactic to watch this battle. This number came with a considerable price. To be able to use the Jade Shattering Tactic, one's cultivation level could not be too low. If it was too low, there would be no effect at all. Other than that, the person who used the Jade Shattering Tactic had to have relatively good eyesight and courage. This was because the timing of the Jade Shattering Tactic was also very important. A moment of cowardice or hesitation could cause the Jade Shattering Tactic to be incomplete. An extraterrestrial demon that had to combine all 3 points was no longer an ordinary extraterrestrial demon horde. Mobilizing 100,000 extraterrestrial demons to execute the jade-shattering tactic was definitely an extremely extravagant method of attack. It was also an extremely cruel and decisive method. The rest of the great extraterrestrial demon leaders were trembling all over. Their hearts were also trembling. They hurriedly retreated and went to make their own arrangements. The 10 great camps each sent out 10,000 jade-shattering demon soldiers. If any single camp sent out all 100,000 jade-shattering demon soldiers, it would be a huge blow to their vitality. Back then, the extraterrestrial demons had attacked Purple Firmament for a long time without success. The situation had entered a stalemate. The 8 great guardians guarding Purple Firmament were Lengyu, Frost Spear, Meng Hui, Frenzied Blade, Bai Luo, Snow Song, Yellow Springs, Heaven Battling. The 8 of them each led an army and guarded 8 directions. They were bathed in blood and fought hundreds of battles. Each of them operated like an iron wall without any loopholes. The extraterrestrial demons had an army of tens of millions. Although they had an absolute advantage in numbers, they were unable to advance an inch. However, it was at that time that the Heavenly Demon King proposed an extremely decisive tactic. It was 100,000 jade-shattering demon soldiers watching this battle. In that battle, they had used the tactic of 100,000 extraterrestrial demons collectively self-destructing. They had used their own lives to open up this passage. The so-called watching this battle was to see if such a desperate and decisive tactic could be effective. And the key point was the word battle. If these 100,000 jade-shattering demon soldiers, they would not be able to shake the foundations of any of the 8 great guardians. Then the extraterrestrial demons could only slow down and plan slowly. The effect of the first wave of 100,000 jade-shattering demon soldiers' self-destruction was truly terrifying enough to destroy the world. Purple Firmament Guardian Leng Yu's army vanguard was the first to bear the brunt of the attack and was completely wiped out. In the true sense of the word, they were reduced to ashes and smoke on the battlefield together with the 100,000 extraterrestrial demons. It was obvious that this battle was indeed effective. The Heavenly Demon King did not hesitate to launch a second wave of attacks. A total of 800,000 high-level extraterrestrial demons self-destructed, forcing the Purple Firmament Guardian Leng Yu to die on the battlefield. At this point, one of the 8 great guardians had died, and when they faced the second Purple Firmament Guardian, they realized that they were still unable to defeat him. The Heavenly Demon King had no choice but to use the jade-shattering demon soldiers tactic again. Front and back. Facing the crazy Purple Firmament Heavenly Soldiers and Heavenly Generals, the extraterrestrial demons used a total of 10 million jade-shattering demon soldiers to finally open up the passage to the Purple Imperial City. A total of 10 million jade-shattering demon soldiers and 10 million elites of the extraterrestrial demons fell at the same time. Although the results of the battle were extremely glorious, the sacrifices they had to pay were also immeasurable. Under such an extreme battle tactic, the Purple Firmament Heavenly Soldiers were forced to use the same tactic as the enemy to barely resist. At the end of the battle, the sound of self-destruction simply rose and fell one after another. Until now, a million years later, some people who had personally experienced the battle still trembled all over when they thought of it. They were extremely terrified and tears flowed down their faces. And back then, 10 million extraterrestrial demons and 100 jade-shattering demons achieved the final result of the extraterrestrial demons' invasion of Purple Firmament. For this matter, the higher-ups of the extraterrestrial demons specially established the Loyal Soul Society. The names of the 10 million extraterrestrial demons on the jade-shattering demons were all engraved on it. The extraterrestrial demons called it the Shrine of Passing. It meant that this experience could not be and should not be forgotten by any of the demonic masses. A long period of worship. Even when they went to the toilet, they would also recite the names of the Shrine of Passing. Because if not for the experience back then, there would not be the digestion and excretion now. The experience now. Damn it. It had already been a million years since the extraterrestrial demons used the jade-shattering tactic again. But this time, facing these 14 people, the golden-crowned extraterrestrial demon did not hesitate to use this command that had been sealed for a million years. At this moment, the generals of the extraterrestrial demons who heard this command clearly developed a feeling of destiny. Back then, 100,000 jade-shattering demons watched this battle, had resulted in the extraterrestrial demons' invasion of Purple Firmament. And now what would it result in? And what did this indicate? But no matter what, the command had already been given. The jade-shattering tactic had to be executed, and it had to be executed thoroughly. Because of Mo Qingwu and Zi Xueqing's unexpected addition and outstanding performance, Ji Huitian and the rest advanced triumphantly all the way. At the same time, they also secretly preserved a considerable amount of physical strength. After the Calamity 7 Stars formation was perfected, although there was no Calamity Sword Master in the center and it could not unleash its full power, it was still the top battle formation in the world. If there had to be an evaluation, there were only 4 words: invincible. Along the way, everyone's robes had long been soaked in blood, and the bloody light was awe-inspiring. Suddenly, the seemingly endless extraterrestrial demons retreated rapidly like the tide, and they even retreated in all directions. Seeing this, Ji Huitian roared and took the lead, rushing forward to chase after the retreating demons. His aura was even stronger. The rest of the crowd followed suit. Zuoqiu Yunfu, however, was suspicious and loudly warned, "Be careful of traps." But Ji Huitian had already rushed out at this time. There will be a 3rd chapter later. I have too many things to do during this period of time, and I have delayed many updates. So, I will try my best to write more to make up for it. I can only say that in this short 1 month's time, I have received 4 great gods from the game company. I even went to Shanghai on orders and spent 7 days. And, please understand me. I am really exhausted from running around, but this is something that can't be helped. Not only has this book reached a critical moment, but my life has also reached a critical moment. Chapter 2452. In order to coordinate with the formation, all the brothers shouted and followed closely behind. The formation was not messed up at all. At this moment, Chu Yang was passively trapped in the core position. At the same time, he also felt that something was wrong. Up till now, Chu Yang had not made a move. Because at this stage it was not the right time for him to make a move. The heavenly demons had been fighting with the golden-robed heavenly guards for tens of thousands of years. They already knew a lot about each other's strength. Along the way, he had thoroughly scouted out the situation and was even more confident. Now, with the formation that they had set up, they should have absolute confidence to go all out and annihilate all 14 people in Tribulation's group. In terms of strength and numbers, the two sides could not be compared at all. Even the time and place were all on the heavenly demon's side. If there were no great variables, Tribulation's group would be dead for sure. However, the variables were naturally Mo Qingwu, Zi Xueqing and Chu Yang. But now, Mo Qingwu and Zi Xueqing had joined the battle in order to perfect the Calamity Unification formation. In other words, the variables that belonged to them, or rather the influence that they could exert, had all been displayed. They were no longer existences that could influence the outcome of the battle. Now, the only variable that the heavenly demons did not know about was Chu Yang. Of course, there was also Brother Tiger and Tribulation's divine soul who had not made a move until now. Chu Yang was only one person. Although his strength was not bad, in terms of actual cultivation he was probably not as good as any of the Tribulation brothers present. Even if he hid his strength and preserved his complete combat power, how much of an effect could he have? This was because, apart from being Chu Yang also had another identity, Tribulation Sword Master. For the Tribulation Unification formation, Tribulation Sword Master was the real core. Although the current Tribulation 7 Stars formation could be said to be perfectly formed, in fact there was no formation I. In other words, the Tribulation Unification formation still had a flaw. There was only one flaw. And Tribulation Sword Master was exactly this formation I, making up for the only flaw of the Tribulation Unification formation. Although Chu Yang had not made a move, he had already placed himself in the position of the formation I when he rushed out from the front. He could attack at any time. Once Tribulation Sword Master and Tribulation Sword appeared at the most crucial point, they would instantly increase the energy of the Tribulation Unification formation by several times. This way, the Calamity Unification formation could be perfected and unleash the strongest combat power of the Calamity Unification formation in history. Chu Yang wanted to preserve his strength so that he could display his prowess at the critical moment. He wanted to influence the battle situation to the greatest extent and reverse the situation. Only then would he be able to bring everyone back to the first bridge. However, if Chu Yang were to act rashly and expose his side's true trump card in advance, there would still be at least tens of thousands of miles of road ahead. The enemy would definitely be able to make a targeted response. At that time it would truly be over. Chu Yang was confident that although his cultivation was not as good as the previous generations of Tribulation brothers, in terms of battle power, once the Tribulation sword was drawn, there was not much difference. There was also Brother Tiger and Calamity's divine soul. This was Chu Yang's other trump card. Therefore Chuyang was not in a hurry. But now the heavenly demon's rash retreat was clearly a retreat prepared. What was the other party trying to do? As these thoughts flashed through his mind, he saw groups of heavenly demons rushing toward him from all directions, as if they had no regard for their own safety. Their faces were resolute and ferocious. That kind of desperate howl, that kind of desperate battle intent, rushed toward him. Seeing this, Chuyang could not help but be shocked. He hurriedly sent a telepathic message to Jun Weiling. Be careful, the heavenly demons are going all out. It's highly likely that they are using the self-detonation tactic. Jun Weiling shouted without hesitation, everyone be careful. This bunch of demons is using the self-detonation tactic. Although the other teams did not know for now, Jun Weiling and the others already knew about Chu Yang's identity as the Tribulation Sword Master from Wujuecheng. They did not have any doubts about Chu Yang's words at all. It was as if they were carrying out their boss's orders back then. Without hesitation, without doubt. At the same time, Zhuqiu Yunfu, Shimen Wanli and the others also came to their senses. They shouted at the same time, close the formation. At this moment, without exception, the strategists of the previous generations of Tribulation made the same, and also the most correct choice. The Tribulation brothers who were scattered in all directions to chase after the heavenly demon horde all retreated at the same time. Just as the last person returned to the team, a heavenly demon with a black face took the lead and pounced over. Then there was an earth-shattering explosion. Boom. Then, countless heavenly demons pounced over one after another with no regard for their own safety. With a desperate determination, they brazenly self-detonated on Tribulation's defensive formation. Boom boom boom, the sound of the explosion rang out. Smoke and dust rose into the sky. A grand show of exploding bombs was played out in 100,000 feet radius at this moment. Countless dust, rocks, everything along with countless broken limbs and body parts rose into the sky. In such a chaotic place, even heavenly demon horde's Cultivation could not see the situation at the center of the explosion clearly. In the sky, the golden-crowned heavenly demon frowned as he looked at the scene before him. He suddenly asked, how do these 14 people compare to the Purple Cloud Guardian's Cultivation back then? All the heavenly demons who heard this looked at each other. No one could answer this question. In that battle back then, almost all the heavenly demons who participated in it died. Even if there were a few who were lucky enough to survive, most of them were riddled with injuries and went back to recuperate. Or rather, they went back to wait for death. Today, most of those who survived had died of old age. Those who were still alive had almost all become the upper echelons of the heavenly demon strength. They would not appear here. And these people who participated in this encirclement were all rising stars, who had risen in the past million years. They did not know the real situation of that battle at all. Although they had heard of many legends, they had never seen it with their own eyes. They really had no right to speak. And now, every word and every judgment could affect the success or failure of the battle before them. Who dared to speak rashly? The golden-crowned heavenly demon frowned and said, although I can't be sure about this, these golden-robed heavenly guards have blocked us for so many years. I believe that the strength of each of them, although not as strong as the Purple Cloud Guardian back then, is definitely not far off. My lord is wise. The heavenly demon war generals flattered together. Their status was not as high as this golden-crowned heavenly demon, so naturally they had to flatter their superior. In other words, the combined combat strength of these people is definitely much higher than a single Purple Cloud Guardian. Especially now that they are in a certain formation, their defensive ability is also considerably increased. The golden-crowned heavenly demon muttered to himself. My lord, I heard of such a saying in the legends. The Jade Shatter army perished together with the Purple Cloud Guardian's army, but I have never heard of the Jade Shatter army fighting against the Purple Cloud Guardian himself. A heavenly demon said weakly. The golden-crowned heavenly demon frowned. The explosion below had already come to an end. The result of the battle had appeared. In the dust that filled the sky, a group of people could be seen rushing out rapidly like a furious dragon. Once again they plunged into the depths of the heavenly demon army at lightning speed. 1, 2, 3. After counting carefully, the golden-crowned heavenly demon's face finally could not help but twitch. He subconsciously scolded in a low voice, Elder Father. The heavenly demon war generals looked at Ji Huitian and the others who were surrounded by the thick smoke below. They could not help but scold in unison, Elder Father. Because there were 14 of them and not a single one of them was reduced. This unbelievable result naturally caused the Sky Fiends to curse wildly, Daddy, is dead. So many warriors were sacrificed but not a single one of them was injured? This result made the heavenly demons very depressed. The golden-crowned heavenly demon's gaze was grave. He gritted his teeth and said, "Prepare for the next wave. I don't believe that the suicidal attack of so many people could not do anything to them. Suzuki-kun, you go next wave." That Suzuki-kun's face instantly turned bitter. He stuttered, "I go?" He thought to himself, "Isn't that the same as sending me to my death?" "That's right. You go." The golden-crowned heavenly demon's face was like iron. "You go personally and test their bottom line." "General Suzuki Seiji, I represent the Emperor to thank you." This General Suzuki Seiji stared with his eyes and mouth wide open. He cursed in his heart, "You motherfucker, since when can you represent the Emperor? You actually represent the Emperor to thank me? Your sister, I knew you would not be pleasing to the eye." However, after being tongue-tied, he finally agreed. One stood at attention and the other nodded. Toad fart. Author's translation: Toad fart is the language of the heavenly demons. When translated into Tian-Ke language, it means yes. The golden-crowned heavenly demon nodded and turned to another heavenly demon. "General Tian Xiaogan, General Suzuki Seiji will be in charge of the main attack. You will help to support the formation. Pay attention to every abnormality of the opponent. Don't miss any clues." General Tian Xiaogan stood at attention and said seriously, "Toad fart. Go." The golden-crowned heavenly demon nodded. Two figures flew out together. However, one of them had some pity and sympathy for the other, while the other had some desperation and determination. "Tian Xiaogan, after this formation I will definitely die. I'll leave my family to Tian Xiaogan." Suzuki Seiji bowed to the ground. When he straightened up, his face was full of tears. Tian Xiaogan said seriously, "Suzuki-kun, don't worry. Leave everything to me." Suzuki Seiji stared at him and said solemnly, "I'll really leave it to you." Without waiting for Tian Xiaogan to reply, he turned around and left. His figure was full of determination, but there was also a hint of loneliness and desolation. That black silhouette streaked across the sky with a swoosh, and had already arrived at his own camp. Immediately the next moment the black army moved and rushed up like a tide. A total of 200,000 elite heavenly demon army. Chapter 2453. Tian Xiaogan looked at the heavenly demon army moving and sighed in his heart. After this battle, I'm afraid, the designation of Suzuki Seiji's main force would be cancelled forever. On the other side, Ji Huitian and the rest who had narrowly escaped death were no longer as calm and composed as before. Everyone was covered in a layer of cold sweat, drenching their clothes. They really didn't expect the heavenly demon horde to be so decisive. One by one they charged forward and self-detonated without any warning. And it wasn't just 3 or 5 of them but a large group, an army. If not for the fact that the cultivation of these self-detonating heavenly demons was too far apart from everyone else, the final result this time would be unimaginable. But even so, everyone was still dizzy, their internal organs were shaken, and they felt as if their insides were burning. Although they weren't really injured, the shaking of their internal organs was still unbearable. If at the same time, there were experts of the same level who attacked, even if they weren't defeated immediately, they would be at a complete disadvantage. Mo Qingwu had already taken out the heavy pills and distributed them to everyone. But this doesn't seem too bad. Yan Fei grinned. We didn't even move a finger and they all self-detonated. This time, we've earned at least 100,000 yuan. This transaction is still acceptable. We'll only feel uncomfortable for a moment, but it's almost a profit without any capital. Nonsense, what the fuck do you know? Zuichio Yunqiuo scolded angrily. Although he was scolding, he was racking his brains to consider what to do if the heavenly demon horde attacked again, or if they continued to attack without any regard for the cost. How to deal with such a genuine attack of death that didn't have any tricks. After all, the heavy pills couldn't be endless. Although everyone was lucky enough not to be injured in the previous wave of attacks, it didn't mean that they could endure it forever. If this went on, and the heavenly demons were really determined to continue sacrificing themselves, then, they might really not be able to return. The self-detonating heavenly demons just now weren't very powerful, and the power of their self-detonation wasn't enough to break through the defensive power of their bodies, so the effect was limited. But if the heavenly demons who were more powerful launched a similar self-detonation attack, would they be able to endure it? What if it was a chain attack like this? Would they be able to bear it? The size of the enemy's army was astonishing. Even if they were attacking with their own numbers, they could still afford to expend their energy. As long as one wave of self-detonation worked, they would lose people on their side and the Calamity 7 Stars formation would not be complete. Their defensive power would be sharply reduced. Then the enemy's next attack would undoubtedly be a disaster for them. However, what one feared most often came true. Just as the strategists were thinking of a countermeasure, they saw a group of people in front of them covering the sky and covering the earth. There was no power, only the intent of death. Sensing the aura of death that was filled with despair, Wuxia Yunfu sighed inwardly. As expected, it's still the same attack. The heavenly demon commander's determination to kill them all was unshakable. Again, this kind of attack might not work on them even if it was launched once or twice. However, as long as there were enough of them, it would definitely work. And with the current situation, there was an army of 10 million heavenly demons in front of them. They could organize such an attack at least 100 times. Just by looking at the density of the attacks in front of him, it was completely imaginable. He believed that if it was necessary, the heavenly demon leader would not hesitate to kill these 10 million heavenly demons. And he would definitely not even frown. As long as he could kill them all, although the price was heavy, it was sufficient. Besides, he could also make an unparalleled contribution. A general's success was built on 10,000 dead bodies. So what if he lost a lot of cannon fodder? What was even more frightening was that the enemy's hidden true expert had never appeared until now. They definitely could not ignore this potential threat. Wuxia Yunfu and Shimin Wanli frowned and thought hard about a countermeasure. However, a voice beside them said slowly, "Sigh? You guys, don't you have any long-range weapons? Do you have to let them rush to your side and self-explode? Strategists? Strategists? You guys are really hopeless." This sudden sentence made everyone's eyes light up. They immediately turned their heads to look in the direction of the voice. They saw Chu Yang, who was dressed in black, looking over calmly. That sentence was actually said by him. Since the start of the battle, Chu Yang had been in a position of being protected. He had not taken the initiative to attack at all. Many of his brothers who did not know his identity were already dissatisfied with his attitude. 2 women had already attacked and you actually had the nerve to not help. What kind of man are you? What a coward. However, they did not expect that such a crucial and constructive sentence would actually be said by him. As the saying goes, the onlooker sees the game more clearly than the person involved. Right now, Chu Yang was playing the role of an onlooker, wholeheartedly. That was why he was able to say such thought-provoking, good words. "Everyone, prepare your hidden weapons." Wuxia Yunfu looked at Chu Yang gratefully. Then he immediately shouted, "Don't use light weapons. Use iron balls that are heavy enough. Short swords, iron spears and iron rods will do. These kinds of things are all over the place now. You can also collect some of them and store them in your storage space. You may need a lot of them later. Attack immediately once they come within 3,000 feet of you. Be careful of the timing. It's best if you can make them self-explode in their own camp." Shimin Wanli quickly added. Everyone agreed. In an instant, everyone's hands were clenched so tightly that cold light glinted. There were also those who did not usually use hidden weapons. At this moment, they also grabbed the broken heavenly demonic weapons on the ground with their hands. Yen Fei was the most ferocious. In an instant, he had already grabbed hundreds of spears in his hands. In an instant, he looked like a porcupine. His entire body was surrounded by shining spears. Even at such a moment, everyone could not help but feel a little scared. Cheng Feifei was speechless. He shouted angrily, "Idiot! Do you think you're the only one? Why don't you take less? Don't use up all of them in one go. Now that they're all over the ground, it won't be easy to find them later." Everyone laughed together. With a series of hoarse roars, the heavenly demons were already rapidly approaching. Wuxia Yunfu calculated carefully. Looking at the heavenly demons that were getting closer and closer, their bodies were also suddenly expanding. This was a sign that they had already activated all their blood and chi and were ready to self-explode. It was indeed this move. Wuxia Yunfu's gaze turned cold. After calculating that it was about time and that the other party could no longer reverse or stop the self-explosion, he immediately waved his hand. "Pay attention to the density of your attacks," Wuxia Yunfu shouted. Paying attention to the density of the attacks was the key to targeting the heavenly demons. If they only targeted a portion of the heavenly demons, even if that portion of the heavenly demons all self-exploded, they would only lose a small portion. However, if the density of the attacks was relatively scattered, it would allow the heavenly demons to cause considerable damage to themselves. A loud roar. Suddenly, an overwhelming number of items flew out in an orderly manner. What were the cultivations of Yan Fei and the others? They were all at the level of high-level peak saints. Even a needle could be used as a rod in their hands. Moreover, they were using heavy weapons with great destructive power. Moreover, the distance between the two parties was already so close. Streaks of cold light flashed in the air. Even though these heavenly demons' strength had increased by several times due to their self-explosion, some of the long weapons even pierced through the bodies of more than 10 heavenly demons consecutively before they were finally exhausted. Boom, boom, boom. In the next moment, nearly 1,000 heavenly demons self-detonated at the same time. Before they could even reach their goal, they had already self-destructed halfway through. Because their self-explosion movements were close to overflowing, they could no longer control themselves in this state. As long as they received a certain external stimulus, they would automatically activate it. Under Wuxia Yunfu's careful calculation, the attacks of these hidden weapons from Tribulation's brothers successfully became such a trigger for the self-explosion. At that time, it was even too late to withdraw the cultivation that had gathered crazily. They could only watch themselves die because of the self-explosion without hurting the target at all. Moreover, because they self-exploded in front of their comrades, they only hurt their own people and a large number of them were killed. This wave of heavenly demons' self-explosion became the trigger for the self-explosion of other heavenly demons. For a moment, the Tribulation brothers' side was peaceful, but the heavenly demons' camp opposite them was full of explosions. Flesh and blood scattered everywhere and dust rose into the sky. Dad. How could this be? Dad. Dad. Suzuki Chingji stomped his feet and beat his chest, shouting and cursing wildly. In fact, this wave of attack was carefully deployed by Suzuki Chingji, and the frequency of the attack was extremely dense. If this wave of attack could be effective, then he wouldn't have to die. However, the final result of this wave of 30,000 people rushing forward was that almost half of them were killed by the self-explosion of their own people. This result made Suzuki Chingji almost vomit blood. The chain reaction caused by the self-explosion could be said to be unexpected by everyone. Even Wuxia Yunfu, the commander-in-chief of Tribulation's side, didn't expect that this very simple coping strategy would eventually lead to such a brilliant result. Looking at the firecrackers exploding one after another in front of them, as long as the fuses hadn't been burned out and hadn't been extinguished, the firecrackers could continue to explode one after another. Everyone felt extremely satisfied. It should be a fierce battle of life and death, a fierce fight in the form of mutual destruction. But now it became a one-sided explosion caused by internal strife on one side, and the other side was equivalent to watching the fun. The most crucial factor that led to this result was his grasp of the timing of his attack. Even the slightest bit of mistake was not allowed. However, Wuxia Yunfu didn't get carried away by this joy. He just glanced at it and immediately issued an order. Brothers, let's move forward. Charge. The game company said that there was an important matter and they had to go to Guangzhou tomorrow. I groaned and thought, are they going to give me 100 million? If it's cash, can I carry it all by myself? Chapter 2454. Right now, all of them were still within the enemy's range. They had to leave this area as soon as possible. Even though they were still tens of thousands of miles away from the first bridge, they were already one step closer to the first bridge. The slightest bit of carelessness could lead to failure, defeat, and death. Just think about it. If everyone went through untold hardships and finally broke through to the first bridge, but they were only one step away and were annihilated in front of the first bridge, what kind of feeling would that be? Then they would know how important it was to take this step in advance. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that this step would determine life and death. There were precedents like this in the past. In fact, it was unknown how many peerless experts had failed at the final moment when success was at their fingertips. Because in this process, he only took one step less. Just one step. When Wuxia Yunfuo made this decision, he didn't even take a second look. He didn't know that Chu Yang was looking at him with admiration at that moment. He felt that Wuxia Yunfuo's wisdom was unfathomable. It was as if he was looking at Mo Tianji, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Because no matter if it was in terms of improvisation, cautiousness, timing, strategizing, etc., Chu Yang felt that Wuxia Yunfuo was almost on par with Mo Tianji. If there was a difference, it would be the cold-blooded calmness in Mo Tianji's bones. Other than this, Wuxia Yunfuo was almost another Mo Tianji. Under Wuxia Yunfuo's command, everyone flew up. Amidst the flying dust and thick smoke, they flew out at an extremely fast speed. The entire process was silent. However, that awe-inspiring aura almost lifted up the entire smoke-filled sky. Damn it, Father. When the golden-crowned heavenly demon saw this scene, he was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This kind of situation should not have happened at all. This formation shouldn't have happened at all. Otherwise, how could they have succeeded when they fought against Protector Purple Cloud? They only needed to attack from afar and they would have been blown up. They would have even implicated many of their companions. What's the point of fighting then? In that case, it wouldn't be self-destruction, but collective internal strife and collective suicide. The so-called self-detonation attack also had a formation requirement, and there was also a combat power in charge of covering. But now there was only one possibility. Suzuki Seiji had changed the basic tactics on his own accord. The reason why he changed his tactics was obvious. He didn't want to die. Therefore he wanted to try his best. If this wave of attack could succeed, Suzuki Seiji, as the commander of the army, would no longer have to face those terrible enemies on the battlefield. Because he himself knew that facing such enemies was almost certain death. No, there was no almost, it meant that he would die without a doubt. The fluke mentality and the fear of death made Suzuki Seiji make this stupid judgment. He's like a father. Mute. The golden crown heavenly devil was so angry that his entire face turned red. He could not say anything. At this moment, if Suzuki Seiji was in front of him, he might even swallow him alive. Suzuki Seiji. You really live up to the name your father gave you. The golden crown demon was furious. You really became two, Sir General, that group of people? They broke out of the encirclement. Looking at Ji Huitian and the others flying away like a sharp arrow, the golden crown demon's face darkened. He said angrily, Suzuki Seiji. Do you want to eat shit? Hurry up and go. Below, Suzuki Seiji's face showed extreme madness. His eyes almost popped out and he screamed, Rush up! Rush up! Ah! At this moment, Suzuki Seiji had gone crazy. The muscles on his face spasmed, and his eyes emitted a terrible black light. His pupils seemed to have dilated. The reality had driven him crazy. He knew that he was finished. The mistake just now had completely ruined his future and determined his final fate. Facing those 14 people, Suzuki Seiji knew clearly that as long as he rushed up, he would have no chance to come back alive. No matter how many people were around him, no matter what tactics or strategies he used, it was all meaningless. These people in front of him. Perhaps they were not as strong as any of the 8 Purple Cloud Guardians, but their combined strength was definitely stronger than the Purple Cloud Guardians. No, it should be much, much stronger. They were even stronger than the combined strength of the 8 Purple Cloud Guardians. You want to use your mere 200,000 men to kill the other party? That was simply a bastard's way of thinking. It was a fantasy, a pipe dream, a mission that was absolutely impossible to complete. He believed that the master did not expect him to succeed. His purpose was to use the sacrifice of himself and 200,000 heavenly demons in exchange for understanding their strength. Of course, it would be more ideal if he could cause a little damage to them. And it was only a little damage. Through the defeat of him and the heavenly demon horde, he could further observe the real strength of those people. In other words, he was just a cannon fodder to test the enemy's strength. At most, he was just a high-level cannon fodder. But if he did not rush up and shrink back, the master would never let him go. There was no way to advance or retreat. The omen was unavoidable. Suzuki Seiji rushed up with tears streaming down his face. All the soldiers under Suzuki Seiji's command came out in full force at this moment, and they rushed over from all over the mountains and plains. Suzuki Seiji's desperate and sonorous voice shouted crazily, Everyone rush up! Everyone use the jade-shattering tactic. Today we are loyal to the Emperor. Our names will be engraved in the passing shrine forever. Our glory is immortal. Our glory is immortal. Our noble spirit lives on forever. Yeah. This sentence made all the heavenly demons go crazy as if they had taken an aphrodisiac. One by one they rushed up while howling crazily. Only Suzuki Seiji, who had issued the order, was left behind. At this moment he was full of tears. I don't want my name to be engraved in a shrine. That's a place that scams people to death. Damn it, I'm already dead, so what's the point? Even if there's such a thing, what's the use of it? As for keeping my heroic soul forever, that's even more nonsense. The greatest use of that place is to chant someone's name when they go to the toilet, but it won't be my name that's being chanted. It'll only chant the process of defecating. Thinking of this, Suzuki Seiji was even more sorrowful. She was on the verge of bursting into tears. But he still rushed up with his subordinates. As soon as Suzuki Seiji moved, the other 14 people on the other side noticed him at the same time. They couldn't help but notice the abnormally dense and powerful demonic aura on the other side, as well as the distinctive bulging wings, the sharp horns on his head, and the way he gave orders. There was no doubt that this guy was a leader and definitely not an ordinary heavenly demon soldier. The difference between an army with this guy's support and an army without this guy's personal command was not just a little bit. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. This was basic common sense and everyone knew it. But how to execute it and how to capture it was a very good idea. Almost at the same time, countless hidden weapons rushed towards Suzuki Seiji, but there were plenty of meat shields in front and behind him, so they couldn't hurt him at all. In the face of the large-scale indiscriminate hidden weapon attack, Suzuki Seiji grabbed and threw his subordinates out to meet the concentrated attacks aimed at him. In a very short period of time, no less than hundreds of people had been thrown out by him. With such a high frequency and highly targeted defense, he blocked all the attacks without missing a single one. Meanwhile, Suzuki Chingji simply allowed his subordinates to be smashed into pieces in front of him, but he just bravely moved forward in such a bloody storm without caring about anything else. His forward speed didn't decrease at all. Suzuki Seiji's strength was still considerable, as he could become the commander of an army of heavenly demons, so he was naturally not weak. Demonic fog filled the sky. Seeing this, Chuyang couldn't help but frown. With a thought, the divine soul of tribulation, which had never shown up, quietly appeared, turned into a cloud of black fog, and merged with the demonic aura in the sky without any repulsion. It quietly approached Suzuki Seiji in the half-cloud and half-fog. Yin Fei, Qing Feifei and the others were at a loss. Their attacks were extremely sharp, and they were confident that as long as they could hit Suzuki Seiji, this guy would definitely die, and he would follow in the footsteps of the previous heavenly demon horde. But the problem now was that they could see him but they couldn't hit him. The attacks that they were sure to hit were all blocked by the meat shields. Although they still caused a considerable amount of damage, they didn't cause any harm to this most threatening leader. This situation was too depressing. 200,000 soldiers would only be able to kill and injure a few thousand people at the moment. It would be like scooping up a scoop of water from the ocean. What was the use of that? At this moment, Mo Qingwu shouted softly, "Heavenly dance, a dance of heaven and earth." Then, her red clothes fluttered as if riding the wind, and two red sleeves spread out, as if there was another rainbow in the sky between heaven and earth. In that beautiful and intoxicating dance, as her long sleeves fluttered, a red light flew out and disappeared in a flash. And at this moment, Suzuki Seiji had gradually approached to a distance of about 300 feet. This distance was already an effective distance for self-detonation. Suzuki Seiji screamed and roared ferociously. At this moment, even he himself didn't know what he was screaming about. He just rushed up with despair. Gold-clothed heavenly guards. I'm doomed to die today, but even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Attention everyone. Chapter 2455. In fact, Suzuki Chingji only said half of the word, explode. Because he had to say the word completely, he would inevitably open his mouth in the second half. However, at that moment, Suzuki Chingji sadly found that he suddenly seemed to have fallen into a nightmare. He couldn't move at all. He just stood there with his mouth wide open in an impassioned manner. There was clearly no enemy in front or behind him, but he really felt that his body was tightly clamped by something. He couldn't even do such a subtle action as closing his mouth. What's going on? Did I encounter a ghost? Thinking of this, Suzuki Seiji felt a heartfelt fear in his heart. He couldn't help but want to shout and run hysterically with all his heart, soul, and spirit, and immediately wanted to launch a self-explosion. This kind of fear was unbearable. His body suddenly swelled to the limit. However, at this moment, a red light suddenly flashed. The hidden weapon released by Mo Qingwu accurately drilled into the vital part of his throat. Mo Qingwu's hidden weapon was actually a small dagger. But its lethality couldn't be underestimated at all. The red light flashed. The dagger drilled into Suzuki Chingji's mouth and came out from the back of his head. Then, with a poof sound, Suzuki Chingji's head was instantly torn apart like a broken watermelon. But his body was still upright, maintaining its original state. If one wanted to launch a self-explosion attack, one must first destroy one's own cultivation to the limit and fill the whole body with vitality until the body couldn't bear it. This state was equivalent to turning one's own body into a human bomb, and the detonation material was one's own vitality that had been destroyed to the limit or even exceeded the limit. It was precisely because of this that this method of attack could cause damage that was several times more than the limit of one's own attack. However, there were also many limitations to this method of self-destruction. For the target, whether this self-destruction was too early or too late, it wouldn't be able to unleash its maximum power. Only by choosing the right time could it cause the most effective damage. Therefore, the detonation point at the last moment was the most crucial part of the entire self-detonation attack. There could not be any mistakes. For first-class masters, this kind of self-explosion process was actually reversible. The more powerful a master was, the better he could control the movement of his own pneuma. Even if the self-explosion had started and the pneuma had filled the body, if the target of self-explosion suddenly disappeared, he could still guide the dispersed pneuma and restore himself to the normal state. Although his pneuma would be damaged greatly, it was not certain that he would die. However, this kind of method of guiding the dispersed pneuma was also limited. For example, at this moment, Suzuki Seiji was at the last moment before the self-explosion, so he could not complete the reverse guidance at this time. His body, which was brimming with yuan qi to the extreme, suddenly opened a big hole in that instant. His self-detonation power was still a little bit away from being able to form an explosive attack. But at this subtle moment, a vent suddenly appeared. Suddenly, a round blood column gushed out from Suzuki Seiji's neck. The blood column, together with his internal organs, shot straight up into the sky like a rocket. The next moment, his whole body shriveled. He was like a mummy, of course, if his head was intact. Not only were the heavenly demons surprised by this sudden change, but it seemed that even the heavenly tribulation brothers of the past were also confused. What the hell is going on? How could this extremely threatening self-detonation attack at the level of the heavenly demon leader be destroyed by him? Previously, all the brothers had used all their means and attacked with all their might, but they still couldn't hurt him. In the end, they were smashed into pieces by a little girl's flying dagger, and their bodies and souls were destroyed. Are you mocking us with your life? Are you mocking us for being incompetent? But, do you have to go to such lengths just to mock us? Since you've put in so much effort, let's accept our incompetence. It's really strange. This guy is obviously a very crazy, fierce, and unscrupulous cold-blooded existence. Previously, he had used his subordinates as meat shields to block all the attacks, all so that he could rush forward and fight to the death with them. He was so cold-blooded, so cruel, and so unscrupulous. But now, when he finally rushed to the front and reached the effective attack range, he suddenly stopped at the last moment. Not only did he stop, but he also seemed to have turned into a piece of wood. He even opened his mouth deliberately, as if he was cooperating with the enemy's attack. He was afraid that the enemy would not be able to attack his vital parts. Then he could have self-detonated at this time, but he didn't. Instead, he gathered all his power and flushed his blood and internal organs into the sky in a soul-destroying way. This way of dying, he couldn't die more. He was too, sacrificing himself for others. Dad. The heavenly demon with the golden crown, who witnessed the whole process, roared furiously. He struck out with his palm and blood splashed in front of him. Not only was he dissatisfied with the result of the battle, but also because the blood and internal organs that flew out of Suzuki Seiji's body rushed up to the sky, and flew straight towards him, as if to assassinate the heavenly demon with the golden crown. The speed was as fast as lightning. It had to be said that the coincidence was too scary. The other heavenly demon generals all stretched their necks neatly and widened their eyes, looking at this sudden scene in confusion. They couldn't help but mutter in their hearts, "Suzuki, what the hell are you doing? You're dying, and you're still doing this. Are you taking revenge on the Lord?" Now, not to mention that it's absolutely impossible for his name to enter the shrine after his death. Even entering the toilets of various places will become an extravagant hope. Opportunity. Kill them. Zuoqiu Yunfu was invigorated. There was no doubt that this was a heaven-sent opportunity. Regardless of the reason for this opportunity, it had appeared. Since it appeared, they couldn't let it go. Suzuki Seiji was deader than dead, and his subordinates were in a situation where they had no leader. Even the follow-up self-detonation attack was only the first wave, and the later ones were like headless flies shooting off aimlessly. This situation was really a gift from the heavens. In this situation, there was no possibility of the enemy luring the enemy in. Moving forward quickly was the most important thing. As for what had happened, they could just ask Imo Jianghu after the battle. There was no need to worry about it now. In fact, the leader was dead, so it didn't make more sense to ask about it. The team of 14 people rushed into Suzuki Seiji's team like a raging dragon, as if they were crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, with irresistible force. How could an army that had lost the command of its supreme leader resist 14 super first-class experts? Only a few thousand people had time to successfully self-detonate, and the lethality caused was really limited, and didn't constitute any effective damage at all. While these self-detonation attacks stirred up dust and smoke, the Tribulation Brothers had already rushed into the large army behind, and started a massacre, launching a one-sided massacre. When the effect of the explosion was completely over, the 14 people had already broken out of the encirclement formed by this army, leaving behind only blood, broken limbs and corpses scattered all over the ground. The group of people walked on the vast earth as if they were flying. They rushed to the next camp at top speed. In midair, Tian Xiaogan, who was sent to hold the line, was scared silly by this scene. He opened his mouth in a daze, and just watched these people break out of the encirclement, with black lines on his forehead. Hold the line? What need is there to hold the line? There was no chance to hold the line at all. Suzuki Seiji was done for when he rushed up. Then it became a situation of complete defeat. I haven't had time to set up the battle array on my side, and your side has been defeated so thoroughly. What the fuck do you want me to do? Damn it, father, you are so dead I can't even find a target to complain and curse. The bugle horn in the sky kept sounding. The heavenly devil army in front of them surged up like a tide, blocking the way of Chu Yang and his team. At the same time, the heavenly demon army in the other directions was also moving rapidly. They gave up on blocking the other directions and gathered at the front. The leader of the heavenly devil army could already confirm that the goal of these guys was very obvious, just like when they came. Their direction was very simple, which was to go back. They wouldn't go in any other direction, so they just needed to guard this path and not let them rush over. It was only the first day of rushing out of the Purple Imperial City, but the number of interceptions that Chu Yang and his team encountered was already more than any battle that Chu Yang had ever fought before in his life. It was even almost more than the total number. In the Battle of Mo Yuntian he had also faced millions of troops at the same time, but it was not like now, where he had to fight millions of troops with only a few dozen people. But the current situation was really like this. One had to say that this was really too crazy. A lineup of only 14 people facing the encirclement and interception of the enemy's army of more than 10 million. This kind of situation was simply inconceivable in the basic understanding of the lower three heavens battle for supremacy. If it really happened, it would be a legend, a myth, but in this place it was actually happening. Moreover, the enemy's army of more than 10 million had been eliminated, and the dozen people on the other side were still unharmed. If this was said in the lower three heavens, they would definitely be scolded as crazy. How could there be such a thing in the world? If there was really such a person, he could destroy a country with one punch. What was the point of having so many troops? Even if it was a legend, a myth, please be a little more reliable, okay? But the fact was right in front of them now. 1 against 10,000. Maneuvering in all directions. Apart from the demon soldiers who died at the hands of Brother Tribulation, there were about thousands of defeated soldiers who fled in all directions because of fear. Brother Tribulation intended to break out of the encirclement, so he naturally did not intend to pursue further. But to his surprise, those defeated soldiers were all killed on the spot by the local army of sky demons. Chu Yang and the others couldn't help but feel a chill down their spines when they saw such strict military discipline. In these eyes of extraterrestrial demons, there was no sense of camaraderie, sympathy, or even humanity. All they wanted was victory, only victory. The only outcome of failing to complete the mission was death. Even if the enemy you are facing is hard to resist and hard to contend against. However, as long as you go up, don't even think about coming down. You can only persevere to the end. Until death. Either the enemy dies or you die. There wasn't a third possibility. Such harshness and cruelty made everyone feel an inexplicable sense of worry. The more Chu Yang thought about it, the more he felt that the extraterrestrial demons were a great threat to the heavenly imperial court. They had already traveled about 4,000 miles away from the Purple Imperial City. Even Zhuoqiu Yongqiu, who had the best memory, couldn't count how many times they had fought along the way. All in all, they had been fighting all the way. They had almost never breathed a sigh of relief, let alone stopped for a moment. Not to mention Chu Yang and the others, it was also the first time for Ji Huitian and the others to experience such a high-intensity battle in their lives. There was a phrase that was described as killing until one's hands went soft. He had always thought that this sentence was just a simple description. But this time after this battle, it was indeed true to its name. It was killing until one's hands went soft. Luckily they were killing heavenly demons. If it were the humans of the Heaven Imperial Court, no matter how much hatred there was, they probably wouldn't be able to take it psychologically. Ji Huitian actually regretted it now, because the current situation was completely different from the original plan. According to the original plan, they wouldn't be able to return to the first bridge base at all if they encountered such a crazy attack. There wouldn't be any possibility or chance at all. At this stage, everyone had basically reached their limit just by rushing to this point. If it wasn't for the fact that Mo Qingwu, that little girl, had a huge amount of heavy pills on her, they probably wouldn't have been able to hold on until here. And it was precisely because of Mo Qingwu, this unexpected and powerful source of replenishment, that they didn't have to worry about running out of fuel. But now a new problem had arisen. And that was, where did Mo Qingwu get so many heavy pills from? What kind of luck would she have to have? I've also thought of these things that you've thought of, but if she's not the Tribulation Sword Master, wouldn't it be even more bizarre and unreasonable? Ji Huitian was very dissatisfied with Zhuqiu Yongquo's answer. But there can't be a female Tribulation Sword Master, right? Zhuqiu Yongquo frowned and asked, raising another doubt. Why can't there be a female Tribulation Sword Master? Who said that the Tribulation Sword Master must be a male? Ji Huitian didn't stop fighting, and he transmitted his voice secretly, multitasking. Zhuqiu Yongquo said angrily, your thinking is simply unreasonable. This is absolutely impossible. Ji Huitian said, then why do you think she knows so much about the operation of the Tribulation Battle Formation? Why are there so many Tribulation pills? Tell me why all the above signs point to her being the Tribulation Sword Master of the first generation. Not to mention that her brother is the brains of the first generation Tribulation. There has never been anyone with the same surname as the Tribulation Sword Master. If she's really the Tribulation Sword Master, where's her Tribulation Sword? Zhuqiu Yongquo was also suspicious, but it was in a different direction. The two of them discussed as they fought. It was just that Ji Huitian's suspicious gaze was always on Mo Qingwu. However, Zhuqiu Yongquo's suspicious gaze often flitted past Chu Yang, who hadn't fought even once until now. Gradually there was a kind of blazing light in his eyes. He even felt his nose tingle. He remembered something. Back then it was Chu Yang who arranged for Zi Sheqing and Mo Qingwu to enter the two Tribulation Sword formations. And from the martial techniques and battle techniques that the two of them used, the effect of the two of them joining in was also immediate. They complemented each other and were extremely compatible. If Zi Sheqing and Mo Qingwu exchanged battle formations, they might not be able to achieve such a seamless effect. Why does he know so much about the Tribulation Battle Formation? And the three of them were together. Anyone with discerning eyes could see that these two outstanding beauties were Chu Yang's women. Other than the Tribulation Sword Master, who else in this world deserves to enjoy such endless luck with women? Zhuqiu Yongquo thought wishfully. Suddenly, Zhuqiu Yongquo's heart was set. Vaguely there was a kind of hot blood rushing up. Chapter 2457. But he didn't say anything. He just continued to command the battle and charge forward. He used all his means to maximize the number of enemies and minimize the damage to his brothers. Zhuqiu ran his hand through his mind. One thought disappeared and another rose. In an instant he was filled with determination. If you are, then I'll let you see that we, the Tribulation Brothers, did not disgrace our boss. We didn't disappoint our boss. If you are not, then we'll also let you know that Tribulation's glory has never ended. No matter what, no matter who you are, no matter if you are that person or not, even if we die in the end, we will fight to perfection and glory. Because we are, the Tribulation Brothers. The Eternal Tribulation Brothers. Zhuqiu Yongquo's blood was boiling. The battle was still going on. Under the lead of Zhuqiu Yongquo's all-out planning, the Tribulation think tanks racked their brains and constantly adopted subtle changes in the formation. Although the overall formation was always a constant Tribulation 7 stars formation, the people in each position were changing from time to time like a revolving lantern. And every time they changed, they could always preserve the strength of the formation to kill the enemy. And during the process of changing, those who changed to positions where they encountered fewer enemies finally had some space to breathe. In such a high-frequency battle, getting a moment to adjust and recover was undoubtedly a great help to the recovery of one's state, and it could effectively further enhance one's ability to continue the battle. And during this period there wasn't a single mistake at all. Even Chu Yang and Mo Qingwu were flabbergasted to be able to do this in such a cruel battle atmosphere. Tribulation think tank, they were indeed Tribulation think tank. As they fought, they calculated and commanded, making the entire formation watertight from beginning to end. Although all of their eyes were bloodshot, every decision they made was still clear and powerful, and they were still extremely smart. The battle was once again in a stalemate, and it continued until now. This continuous battle that almost didn't have a break had already lasted for 3 days and 3 nights so far. On Tribulation's side, there really wasn't any time to rest at all. From the moment they rushed out of the Purple Imperial City, they had already traveled more than 10,000 miles in this battle. And the most conservative estimate of the number of fallen extraterrestrial demons along the way had already exceeded 3 million. In other words, at least 30% of the enemy's 10 million troops had already been lost. They had practically used the corpses of the extraterrestrial demons as a path to charge over. Tribulation's brothers were still cheering and fighting. His fighting spirit soared. There wasn't the slightest hint of weariness. Chu Yang was also amazed. However, the happiest ones in this battle were not Chu Yang and Mo Qingwu, Zi Xiecheng, or the Tribulation brothers. Of course, it was even more impossible for it to be the Heavenly Demon Horde. At the beginning, the leaders of the Heavenly Demon Horde had confirmed that all the gold-robed Heavenly Guards had infiltrated their camp and were dead for sure. But now, the casualties caused by the gold-robed Heavenly Guards had already caused the leaders of the Heavenly Demon Horde to be extremely shocked and heartbroken. In fact, there was only one person who was the happiest about this battle. Or rather, it could be said that this battle had made a person successful. That was the divine soul of a calamity. The essence of the divine soul of a calamity was already a pure energy body, and it could only grow further by absorbing the aura of death. At the level of the divine soul of a calamity, the requirements for ordinary aura of death were extremely high, be it in terms of quantity or quality. Ordinary places would not be able to satisfy him. But the aura of death derived from the battles along the way was not only huge in quantity, but also extremely pure and high quality. The self-explosion attack was to condense one's own vital energy to the limit and forcibly raise it to the level that one's physical body could no longer bear. Only in this way could one unleash a terrifying attack that was several times more powerful than one's own strength. Under this attack mode, regardless of whether the attack could cause harm to the target, the purity of the attack energy that burst out would be extremely high. And the army of heavenly demons continuously attacked Tribulation's formation with almost continuous self-explosion attacks, hoping to cause effective damage. One could imagine the amount of energy that dissipated. Such a huge amount of high-purity energy was really enough for the divine soul of a calamity to absorb to his heart's content. He turned into a gray fog and merged with the demonic haze in the sky. He gradually hovered in the sky and absorbed to his heart's content, absorbing limitlessly. Occasionally, when there was a crisis somewhere, he would immediately rush over to provide support. After dealing with it silently, he would immediately soar up and continue to enjoy the feast. Except for Chu Yang, no one else discovered his existence at all. The layer of demonic haze that appeared because of the army of heavenly demons was absolutely a natural cover for the divine soul of a calamity. The divine soul of a calamity even felt that in front of him, the originally boundless future of cultivation had once again appeared a shore that should not have appeared. It seemed to be in the vast sea, but he could finally see the existence of a continent in a very, very distant place. This was undoubtedly great news for the divine soul of a calamity. Although it was still very far away, the shore that he could already glimpse undoubtedly proved that, as long as he could reach that realm, he could break through the shackles of this world and reach the level of an expert like D. To him, this was a good thing that he had never dared to dream of before. But now, although it was not at his fingertips, there was finally a glimmer of hope that he could anticipate. Following little ancestor Chu Yang was indeed the right choice. The divine soul of a calamity was so excited that he was about to cry, mainly because he had no tears. If he had tears, when would he cry if not now? The so-called crying tears of joy was nothing more than this. The golden-crowned heavenly demon had been watching this fierce battle coldly from the sky all along. It was not that he did not feel heartache for the sacrifice of the heavenly demon horde. So many warriors had died in the hands of the enemy just like that. Until now, there were already more than 3 million heavenly demon horde whose souls had dissipated forever. But the enemy did not have a single casualty and no one was even injured. This was simply an unbelievable thing. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe no matter what. No matter what methods they used, no matter what targeted tactics they used, The enemy seemed to never know fatigue. They only killed, a one-sided massacre. This matter was really too strange. He admitted that these golden-robed heavenly guards were all experts, all first-class super experts. Even if he personally went into battle, he could only resist one of them at most. But even if he were to use himself as a reference, he would definitely not be able to last more than half a day in the face of such a high-intensity continuous battle. Even if they had the power of the array to increase their strength, even if their combined strength had a special enhancement, but there was no reason for them to be able to last for such a long time, right? As long as their battle strength did not show any signs of weakening, they would not dare to recklessly use their trump cards to attack. Because the golden-crowned heavenly demon also understood one thing. Those people on the other side still had a considerable amount of strength left in case of an emergency. They had even long prepared the medicine to deal with his strongest attack head-on. If even that attack failed, then with the current strength of these people, breaking through to the next level of interception would definitely be a piece of cake. If this large-scale interception operation ultimately failed in the end, he would definitely become a laughingstock in the entire heavenly demon horde. The layers of defense laid down by 10 million heavenly demon horde actually could not stop a team of 14 people. Not to mention anything else, just a mouthful of saliva from each demon was enough to drown them. When that time came, even in front of the emperor, he could only take the blame and commit seppuku. Incidentally, seppuku was a very high-standard method of suicide in the heavenly demon race, and ordinary people did not have the right to enjoy such a method of suicide. Even the most perverted way of dying for a perverted race was perverted. Only when the ability of these dozen people was reduced to less than 30% of their peak standard could the group of experts he had prepared defeat them in one fell swoop. That was the result he had just calculated. But if a series of self-detonation attacks did not pose a threat, what else could he do to reduce their battle strength? This matter is really very strange. A general beside him was grinning, full of suspicion. How could they possibly do this? Even if the kings of our various races were here, they could not possibly have such a strong ability to sustain a battle. The golden-crowned heavenly demon's gaze focused. In your opinion? How do you explain this phenomenon? The general shrank back. These fellows are all freaks. The golden-crowned heavenly demon did not blame him and instead looked pensive. Coincidentally, it was at this moment that he saw the people below fighting. There was a disharmonious situation that should not have happened. Those people were actually gradually passing a water bag. Whoever received it would fiercely drink 2 mouthfuls, and then pass it to another person and so on. The golden-crowned heavenly demon immediately noticed this little anomaly. In fact, such water sacks had appeared many times before, but he had never noticed it, thinking that it was a very simple and ordinary drinking to quench his thirst. But now it clearly felt that something was not right. Because after drinking the water, these fellows seemed to recover all their strength almost instantly. No matter how tired they were before, after drinking 1 or 2 mouthfuls of water, they immediately became 100 times more spirited and full of vigor. In fact, the golden-crowned heavenly demon even noticed that one of the scholarly figures, whose face was originally rather pale, a symptom of being so tired that he was about to collapse, was immediately emitting a divine light after drinking 2 mouthfuls of water. His face was also somewhat rosy, and the paleness from before was nowhere to be seen. Just a short rest under the protection of his comrades, and he was once again full of vigor and vigor. Water sack? The golden-crowned heavenly demon was deep in thought. Suddenly he shouted, "All troops pay attention no matter the cost, get that water sack for me. I want to know what's the mystery behind it." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.